it appears to me that probably most likely the lion's share of you are here for the item, that's a discussion item relative to the proposed project for the racetrack. Am I correct about that?
Oh.
Okay. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. So we're going to change the agenda just a little bit tonight. Normally we would have the Historic Resources Board first, then the Planning Commission. I'm going to call the Planning Commission items first. We'll take that specific item, then I'm going to adjourn that meeting, go back to the Historic Resources Board, and come back. I think that's fair to use, members of the public, and I just want to say on behalf of all the commissioners here that we appreciate you taking the time out of your family schedules, your dinner schedules, and what have you to be here, because it's important that we hear your voice on these items. So I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Planning Commission to order now. Ask that we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the record will reflect that Commissioners Franco and Frios are not present. They both notified us in advance of their inability to attend, and those appear to be excused absences to me. Do we have to vote on that, or just note it? Okay. All right, so item 6 on the agenda, 6C, is the proposed Motor Technology Center of Excellence. I'd like to remind members of the public that there's no formal application before us. They have brought this to you, the community, and us as a commission and a city to tell us about their thoughts and their ideas, and so we can kind of weigh in on that. I will tell you, and there's been some discussions back and forth, and we can ask the city attorney her learned opinion, but there's been some discussions, is this a city project or a county project? Probably doesn't matter in the big picture of things, because this is in our sphere of influence. But there's also, in my opinion, the great possibility that probably the city, should they submit a formal application, would be the lead agency on this. So it's very, very important that we have your input. And again, I'm being redundant, but intentionally so. Thank you for being here tonight. So let's move to item 6C. Matt, you want to give a staff report first?
Sure. So I have to apologize, this is probably all my fault. I received a packet of information from the County of San Benito Resource Management Agency a couple weeks ago regarding this proposal that they had received and discussed at their Interagency Review Committee on June 15th. And in that letter from Tab and Brown over at the county, they stated a set of concerns that they have with the project in terms of possible impacts on the city of San Juan Bautista. So what they recommended was that the applicant, to them, come to us to have us weigh in on the project in terms of those impacts that they listed in their letter. The developers, or the development team, never actually contacted me about this. I just took the packet of information that was sent from the county, and because it was such a large project, put it on the Planning Commission agenda because I felt that it was something that the Planning Commission and the city would want to discuss well ahead of time. What can I tell you? Let's say the project would involve the development of 550 acres into a Formula One raceway with accommodating luxury features and home sites. It stretches basically between Rancho Larios and our reservoir up on the top of the hill there. I believe the entrance as proposed would be off Lawson Drive. And I think that's about it. There was a lot of pictures, a lot of analysis of, things that would be considered more in the EIR, such as noise, water, wastewater disposal, and things of that nature. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there a way to turn the volume up on this?
No, just
you can hear me. Okay. City Attorney, do you have anything to add to that staff report?
No, but I would just like to echo what you said, Mr. Chair, that you are not making a decision on a project tonight. So I would encourage or advise the Planning Commission not to make any yes/no statements, just to, if there's issues that you find are problematic about the project, such as traffic or air quality or noise, that you speak to those, but do not make a decision tonight about the project, so you can be unbiased if and when a project comes in front of you. Thank you.
Now, you, on the other hand, can vote either way.
You can be biased.
All right, do we have anybody representing the applicants here tonight?
No, they emailed me this morning and said they were unable to make it. They could show up for a future agenda if you wish to have them back, and they said that they would welcome all the feedback from the Planning Commission and the public. So.
Okay, and can I ask you to add to your staff report? They actually appeared last meeting when I was out of town on business, correct? Mm-hmm. Is there anything you want to add to your staff report regarding that? Yes, no?
No, they didn't really expand a whole lot more beyond what was in the packet that they submitted, so.
Okay.
Yeah. And which is available on the website if anyone wants to look at it and learn more, so.
Yeah, and thanks for keeping that information very timely. Okay, before I turn it over to the public, do you have any comments regarding last meeting or?
Last meeting, no. No.
Okay, I'd welcome anybody to the platform to come up and talk about this project, give us your opinions and your thoughts on it. Yes, thank you.
I have a public comment card. Can I go through these?
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Jim Ostick.
There he is.
Hi, I'm Jim Ostick. I live at 400 San Juan Hollister Road, over across the highway, and strongly oppose this project for all the pretty obvious reasons, at least to me, that the enormous carbon footprint it would cause on our county, the noise and the traffic and the impact on the water and sewer. So to me, those are no-brainers. I know that it needs to be discussed, and I'm expressing my opinion. What I don't understand fully is if it's a foregone conclusion that this property is going to be developed one way or another. So if this project doesn't go through, will another take its place? Toward that end, as a retired teacher, I would like to express one idea to consider if there's a replacement, and that would be like a vocational technology learning center, something along the lines of a community college. If we could swing that down the road. But first, the first thing would be to solve the problem with water and sewer. I think that needs to be done before anything is put in there. My preference would be that it stayed as agriculture or, just like it is. But I could see a great benefit long-term to our community if we were training nurses, if we were training automotive mechanics, computer scientists, etc., instead of going around in circles, vroom, vroom, vroom.
Thank you, Jim.
Charlene Cosio.
Hello, Commissioners. Jolene Cosio, 181 Lang Street. I hope I don't run long, but if I do, I have a few friends in the audience who aren't speaking who might give me a minute. I timed this as fast as I could, and I got 4 or 5 minutes. I couldn't quite get 3. Anyway, I'm on the Strategic Plan Committee, as you know, and we are responsible for the implementation of many aspects of the general plan. And this is the report I am going to be giving at the next meeting on Thursday, abbreviated a little bit, I hope. I'm on the subcommittee for land use, agriculture, and environment, and there are 3 other people on that subcommittee. All 4 of us met on July 27th. The main topic of discussion was the proposed Motor and Technology Center of Excellence. All in attendance had looked at the proposal on the city's website, and we had a copy of the letter from the County of San Benito Resource Management Agency to applicant William F. Yao of WY2M Inc. And we had all looked at all this. County Supervisor Botello is on that committee, and he was pleased that the San Benito County Interagency Review Committee suggested that the applicant formally engage the City of San Juan Bautista and its special service districts before going further. The rest of the committee agreed that this was the right course of action. All members agreed that the proposal likely does not fit in with the general plans of the City of San Juan Bautista or the County of San Benito, and it is nearly all zoned agriculture. The map of the project clearly shows that while the largest portion of the 550-acre parcel is in the county, much of it is in the sphere of influence of San Juan, and a small portion of it is within city limits. Both the proximity to San Juan and the proposal to have an entrance-exit on Lawson Drive, which leads to our city reservoir, are outrageous. The noise from a racetrack carries roughly 10 miles, and a portion of the track would be a stone's throw from the city. I understand Formula One race cars have about 700 horsepower and run at about 9,000 to 18,000 RPM. The high noise levels, damage to a sensitive ecology, and ruin of agriculture zone property are unacceptable in most locations, much less so close to a populated area that values its rural feel and vistas. Following our list of some of the reasons why this proposal does not fit in with the city's general plan, I have not even included the dark skies or gateways elements, since I do not yet have detailed information on when the track would be used or how the entrances would look. I've listed a whole lot of these. I'm going to try to go through them real quick. And I also want to mention that the decibels listed in that report that was online said 78 or something like that. I actually went to a Scientific American study. It said 140 decibels, which is right below the level that causes permanent ear damage. So land use element. Continue contracts under Williamson Act and support tax breaks for owners of recreational, forest, or agricultural lands that maintain specified land use. And I have the LU numbers if any of you want them, but you can also look to the general plan and see all these. Prevent impacts, encroachments by incompatible land uses. Ensure proper transitions and buffering between different land uses. Create a greenbelt zone around the city to maintain the distinct boundaries and the small town feel and to limit sprawl. Locate new hotels to minimize their adverse impacts on circulation, existing uses, and scale of development. Housing element. Coordinate with appropriate departments to provide adequate infrastructure, public facilities, water, and services are available or in place to support the development of new housing. Allow farm worker housing in agriculturally zoned areas through discretionary review, such as conditional use permits. Attract housing that is appropriate for workers of all income levels. Establish an urban growth boundary to promote new growth in desirable areas and protect some prime agriculture lands and view sheds. Conservation element. Create development standards for land-zoned agricultural. Utilize the California Air Resources Board Handbook on the development review process to ensure new development meets state air quality standards. Open space element. Create an open space overlay district in the zoning ordinance to protect and preserve open space land. Acquire funding for non-motorized trail projects. That would be great to have over there. Non-motorized, not motorized. Establish design guidelines and review that limit the impact of development on scenic vistas and view sheds. Separate wildlife habitat area as protected open space. With conservation and efficient design using infill and cluster development, prevent new housing from encroaching on protected open space, including natural areas, habitat corridors, waterways, and wetlands. Keep existing water resources for agricultural activities. Permit only agricultural-related uses in areas designated agriculture. Uses associated with the growing and/or production of agriculture products.
Can you summarize them 1 minute?
Yeah, I got two more.
Yeah.
Encourage visitors serving uses in agriculture areas, including but not limited to wine tasting rooms, hotel and bed and breakfast inns, without conflicting with production activities. Noise element, that's the primary, of course. Require new development along State Route 156 to mitigate noise impacts to the acceptable range, shown on Table 9.1. By the way, Matt, I couldn't find Table 9.1.
Okay.
Thank you, Joey.
Thank you.
Mike Swearinger? I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong.
Well, you did really well. I don't know that there's anything I can add to that, because that was really well prepared. Except that I just want to tell everybody, We haven't been here that long, and we looked for a home here for a lot of years. And this racetrack would completely oppose all those reasons, and we thought this was a great place to live. That's all I got to say. Anybody want to contact an attorney? I'm on board.
Thank you, Mike.
Amy Covington? Hello.
Oh.
My name is Amy Covington. I live at 1106 3rd Street in San Juan Bautista. I live less than a mile away. I think it's 0.6 miles away from where the racetrack will be built. Crows fly straight across. And we are super opposed, as everyone else is, to it. The noise level alone is going to be, I can't even imagine, when the Larios Ranch has a little bit of a party, we can hear it like as if it's in our backyard. I couldn't imagine what a concert or even a small event across the street there would hear. Heaven forbid somebody is having a funeral at the cemetery and they can't even bury their loved ones in peace because you have this venue going on across the street with race cars racing around. And then on top of that, we live right by the San Andreas Fault. We don't have a huge emergency service group. If you have 250,000 people, which is what they're proposed to put into a venue, what if something goes wrong? What if there's an earthquake? There is not enough resources to help those people whatsoever. If there was a terrorist attack, there would be nothing to help those people. And I saw also they only are allowing 220,000 parking spaces. So where do all those other people park? It is crazy already on the weekend to go anywhere around here. We usually stay home or get up and get out of town first thing in the morning. Every single freeway is gridlocked. If we were to add 250,000 people onto that gridlock, it would just be insane. I saw their proposal said it's a 40-minute drive from San Jose Airport. That would be non-commute time, maybe in the middle of the night or in the middle of the morning. That is not on a weekend. On a weekend, you're looking at a 2-hour drive. And dropping all those people in there, and just to think of our businesses that would get hurt here in town, it just would be, I think, devastating to life as we know it and we all love in San Juan Bautista. Thank you.
Amy, did I hear you say that from your house on 3rd Street, if somebody's having a party in Rancho Larios, you can hear that?
Oh, we can hear it.
Okay.
I mean, you can, and it's fine, because they only do it every once in a while, and we all love a party, so.
Especially if you're invited.
Well, we're not invited. Just turn up the noise machine a little louder that night, but yes, it is. I think that it would be interesting to do some kind of a test over there to see how, you could probably get a stereo car club to do each one of their cars at the decibels of how many.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Amy.
Thank you.
Good evening. I don't really have much to say other than there's an online petition that was started by Jackie Morris and myself. Residents of the county and of the city opposed. And as of like 2 minutes before we came in, there was about 52 signatures on that. I would be happy to make it available to the commission if you wanted. I'm opposed to this project just because of all of the ways that we don't know how it will negatively impact our local economy, how it will impact our traffic. And really, I don't see the benefit to the city of San Juan Bautista. I don't see the benefit to the county of San Benito. I see a lot about where maybe the property owner privately will make some money, or the person going in there is going to create a business that they'll be able to make a lot of money on. I just don't see how it's going to positively impact our community in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lisa.
Richard Larios?
Hello, my name is Richard Arios, and I think it's crazy to put a racetrack right there. I mean, that's my ancestor land. I don't own it, but I mean, it's right there by the cemetery where my family is. And I mean, why don't you go put it up on the end? I mean, that's what I think. I mean, you want to put it on somewhere that should be a historical place where my family's from, and I mean, it's just crazy to put it right there. I mean, might as well, like I said, put it up on the ends of trail. I mean, that wouldn't go, so why put it there? I mean, I just think it's a crazy thing to do. I don't know what else to tell you guys.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Emily Russell, I'm sorry.
Oh, she has a long list too. She has a long list too. I got a copy of that.
Chairman Hopper and members of the HRB and Planning Commission, you have my letter of July 24th outlining a lot of the issues related to this Formula One proposal. I hope you will respond to the county with a letter from San Juan Bautista strongly urging them to reject the proposal and outlining all of the problems it would create for our town and for the county. A project as dense as this...
Could I ask that we keep our voices down in the back, please? Thank you.
A project as dense as this and immediately abutting our town should have to be annexed through the local agency formation agency, and it's clear that this project would totally overwhelm our ability to provide essential property-related services. San Benito County has created over 30 county service area subdivisions, and in 2010 had to drastically cut services to 27 of the 30 because they failed to vote for appropriate county fee to cover the costs of service. A similar outcome could be expected on this proposal as well. I did a rough but conservative calculation of water and sewage needs, and this one project would use about 1.5 times our sewer capacity and our current water use. It simply won't work here. Over 50,000 cars arriving, and I'm assuming 4 people to car, which is a big assumption, with over 50,000 cars arriving, parking, and departing from this site for races would create unbelievable traffic jams on both 101 and 156, not to mention other alternative routes taken by drivers attempting to avoid the jams. Over half the site would have to be paved for parking. It will be almost impossible for San Juan Bautista and Rancho Larios residents to get to and from their homes. Please make sure that San Juan Bautista sends an official communication to the county, making clear to them the incredible obstacles this project would face if it were to try to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Bill, let's all,
Come on in.
Yes, good evening. Thank you. My name is Bill Lipe. I'm from neighboring Monterey County, but I did have a business here in San Benito County for a couple of years. And of course, I've always liked coming here to San Juan Bautista, to the street festivals, visiting the mission as a child, coming over here to grade school trips. It's really a wonderful community you have here. And I like Hollister too. But this tonight is about San Juan Bautista. And obviously, change is something that people are always, and rightfully should be, skeptical and questioning of. But, you know, I went out to your website tonight to take a look at the packet and the grab an agenda, and I know you've had a water problem here for a long time. This is well before this project ever came up. While looking at this and questioning it, as people should, I think people should also take a look at this as an opportunity for San Juan Bautista. I mean, Formula One racing is a very world-renowned, world-followed sport. You have Silicon Valley just to the north of you. I have a feeling that they're probably somewhat involved in wanting to develop this project. And somebody said, well, why don't they build it there? They can't. They can't build it there. But there is a parcel of land here that may work. And what I would suggest is looking at this as an opportunity to address your water systems, your sewage systems. I would hope that the city would ask that the developer include a substantial percentage of affordable housing. This is an opportunity where you can leverage these things. If somebody really wants to come here and spend that kind of money, why not lever them to be able to do the things that this city needs, this city wants, which includes preserving the historical aspects of the town. Formula One races, I mean, it's only going to happen once a year. So everybody thinking that there's going to be hundreds of thousands of cars every weekend, I think that's a misinterpretation of how this thing actually works. Again, everybody has the right to question this and take a deep look at it and decide whether, and ultimately it's within the local folks' control as to what actually happens. But I think people looking at it as an opportunity to make the improvements that I think everybody would like around here, as far as their water systems in particular, and expanding their sewer system, and creating an opportunity to build your tax base by including or having the developer include affordable housing in this project. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm happy to be in San Juan Bautista, and now I think I'll go spend some dollars here at one of the local vendors, and maybe over at Hardin and out on the patio. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
It's a public meeting, last I recall.
Not now, not here, not ever.
Getting the protesters out.
Good evening. My name is Maria, and I live on North Street. I just wanted to share my experience living by a racetrack. I grew up by Laguna Seca. I first grew up in Spreckles, which I could definitely hear the racetrack. And Spreckles is what, more than 5-6 miles away from Laguna Seca. You could hear the echo. You could hear the echo bouncing from the hills to that area. My parents then moved to Toro Park. Toro Park, a little closer, but every weekend I could hear the racetrack. We just got used to it between the racetracks and Fort Ord. I mean, the artillery going off, and it was quite noisy. It was always an activity. But I just want you to be aware that you could hear it. You're going to hear it. So if I'm that many miles away from the racetrack, this is just across the street. We're going to hear them. We're going to hear it. They're going to hear it in Hollister. They're going to hear it in Prunedale. They're going to hear it in Aromas and possibly Gilroy and Morgan Hill. I don't know. That noise could travel. It's going to bounce up and down those hills. I don't know how that's going to echo. So just being consideration, just to kind of give you my feedback on how I grew up. I did grow up by a racetrack, and I did hear it. Yeah. And then, oh yes, I know that once a year, no. It's every weekend. I mean, if it's not the Formula One, I mean, it'll be something else. And so we would hear races, I mean, every Saturday. So is that what we want? Is that the kind of activity we want here? Is that the kind of monies we're trying to attract? I mean, there's other ways. We just have to keep looking and keep trying. Thank you.
Thanks for your first interview.
I don't have any more.
Okay, we don't have any more speaker cards, but I would invite anybody that at this juncture has anything to add or discuss about this item, please feel free to come forward.
Anthony Patello, Supervisor for District 2, and I'm really pleased to see the public participating in this process. I think it's really important to have this up front. Let the potential applicant know some of the concerns and whether or not what they want to do is a fit for this community. In my opinion, as the District 2 Supervisor, we just got done with a county general plan revision just a couple of years ago. One of our great concerns was to maintain the rural character as the entrance into this historic cultural center of our county. Thank you. But and this is contrary to the county's general plan. And I certainly have a lot of concerns, the same concerns that have been expressed by a number of the speakers this evening. And it's too big of a project. It's in the wrong location, and the city of San Juan, I just cannot see how they could service enterprise like this. When you get down to water and sewer, one of the things we have to keep in mind is our zones with our water. I don't know if these applicants know anything about the zones. I know Chairman Hopper does. And that's going to come out, and that kills the project right now. And I certainly hope the applicants take a real hard look at the testimony tonight and, make some, the best decision, and that is not to proceed forward. And for the record, I'm absolutely against this project in this location. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hello, Elia Salinas, San Benito County resident.
I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Elia Salinas.
Okay.
I'd just like to ask the commission to keep an open mind. I think that the property owner should be able to create any business as long, this is just the beginning process. And one of the things that really is more important than anything is if I have property and I can pass through the LAFCO, COG, and EIRs and all that, I should be able to create a business that I believe would be an economic opportunity, not just to myself, but to the community, the city as well. I think keeping an open mind, I think that this would be a great opportunity if you go forward with talking to this company about maybe getting a substation down here for the Sheriff's Department. This is a plan that's going to be, it's not so easy to go through LAFCO and COG and EIR, and I think that Supervisor Botello can confirm that. So I think that keeping an open mind on this, and the fact that I think one of the issues is public safety. They're going to have a public safety plan. It's not that there's going to show up, there's going to be traffic. I spend numerous weekends near Laguna Seca, and up where we are up there in that area, there's no traffic. Traffic's not an issue on 68. They work on it. They have a plan for it, and also the noise on Laguna Seca. So I've seen it. I've witnessed it, and they have a plan. So I think if you can keep an open mind, this is just an open dialogue right now with the opportunity for them to come back and speak to you. You can have issues for them to come and answer. I think would be beneficial to everybody. So.
Okay, I'm sorry. Where do you reside again?
San Benito County.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Anybody else would like to speak? Come forward. I'd like to hear from
Whoever's out there.
who's ever out there, but I am going to have to limit this at some juncture, so please.
Hi, my name's Kevin Knox, and I live at Rancho Larry's. I think you guys just ought to keep an open mind. Hear what they have to say. Let them throw the paperwork at you. Take a look at it, and if it works out, then we all can come back and talk about it again a little bit more, but keep an open mind and let them take a look at it. Just bring something there. Just something.
Thanks, Kevin. Anyone else?
My name is Shirley Trevino, and I live up on toward the canyon. I just moved there last year, and I moved to San Juan Bautista to leave Gilroy and all the mess that the city council there has created with all the outlets, the mega Walmart. My son had asthma, and as a result of all the traffic coming in, it became worse. The doctor at Kaiser, when we spoke at that city council about the growth that was taking place over there, he said that the asthma rates and the rates of childhood asthma especially had gone up, and that's what you're looking at. It may be coming once a year, but that is a venue situation that's probably not just going to be dedicated to Formula One. That is a greenbelt area that would be destroyed with something like that coming in. In Gilroy, they had bad growth. They tried to do this whole 700 housing development, and we talked about smart growth, about how we can save some of that land for the future of our children and our grandchildren. And they fought us hard. They put lots of money in it, and we had to put it on the ballot. And the smart growth won. And so whoever is listening, whoever, the letter that you probably got talking about the air quality, the infrastructure that is not here yet, to even create a situation like that would be devastating for this community. And I moved here to avoid that kind of thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mariana Thomas, and I've lived here now 12 years. I want to address a little bit what that gentleman said about maybe keeping an open mind. And I lived in Pacific Grove for 30 years, and you're all familiar with Concours d'Elegance in Pebble Beach. We used to be only in Pebble Beach, and is now all over the peninsula for 2 weeks. And it has spun, I think, out of control and out of the hands of the residents. So who has jumped on the bandwagon are the people who have the big money. I would really urge you always in every decision to keep the definition of this community in mind and not let anybody else define it for all of us that are here or for you in making these decisions, because pretty soon, if you let that happen, then it's no longer our community.
Thank you.
We have time for a couple more comments.
Anybody else?
Okay, we'll close this.
Sorry.
Yeah, come on back.
Good evening, council. No, this is the planning commission.
We answer to anything you want to call us.
Okay. Good evening, Jackie Morris, San Juan City, longtime resident. Went to grammar school here, local high school. I just feel like this is really wonderful. I want to say that behind me there's a room full of local residents and concerned people, and this is more than what I could hope for when me and Jason and I came up with the idea of an online petition. Everyone stated all the obvious, that this is a very unique community with beautiful surrounding rolling hills and this F1 Formula racetrack. We understand, we're not non-intelligent folks, that it's not going to run every day, but it's the machine that's going to keep it open, because they do have to make their dollars. They can't just have one race once a year, and that is going to create havoc on our roadways, destroy the tranquility that we have here. Also, like Mr. Lawyers spoke to the fact that his ancestors were the Spaniards that came here, the landowners, and they actually had adobe home on that land. His ancestors are lying at rest across the highway in the graveyard. Who knows what riches and artifacts are out there? Who knows what wildlife is out there that we can no longer protect? I think we need to think about the residents. Yes, we need to be open-minded. I just think that this is the wrong project, the wrong time, the wrong place, like Supervisor Botello. I'm really happy that he spoke up, because this is the gateway to our community. This is the gateway when you head off of 156 on 101 onto 156. The first thing you see is coming down that hill is that beautiful bucolic scenery to the right. Okay, the old Myron Ranch, and to think that that will one day be destroyed because people are after ways to fill our coffers. There's other ways. We just have to put our heads together. Thank you.
Thank you. One more. No pressure whatsoever.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Ribeiro. I'm a long-life resident of San Juan Bautista. I'm actually a third-generation San Juan Bautistian. Went to school here, didn't go to high school here because there was no high school here at the time. My husband and I both went here. We moved our family back here so our boys could be raised in this town as we grew up. Now, there's been a lot of talk of open-mindedness, and that's a huge concern for me because of the fact that when people move here, you either move here because this is the type of environment you want to raise your family in, or you're from here and you know what this environment is, what this community is. It's not about raceways, it's not about housing, it's about the historical mission and the small community that when you walk down the street, you see 8 out of 10 people that you know. You walk down the street, your kids can walk down the street because you know that people are keeping tabs on your kids. That's the kind of community that this is. You bring a raceway here, then you're talking about big city, big business, what happens to the town itself? We're going to get overshadowed. And so that's why I asked for the Planning Commission to consider should this proposal be brought before you. Actually, I would ask that you keep an open mind about not destroying our town, regardless of what proposition is being put before you. A raceway, a strip mall, additional housing, a Walmart, a Kmart, what have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, in the interest of time, I'd like to close the public discussion. Again, very grateful that you're all here. Thank you very much. So in bringing it back to the commission, a couple of comments here. Again, you need to be mindful that no application has been given to the city. Has an application been given to the county? I assume so, because that's why we got this letter.
That wasn't even clear from the packet, so it may have just been a discussion item at that level as well.
Okay. So, I'll hear your thoughts in a moment here, but I think I'd kind of like to frame this in the following context. I think we received a letter. I think we should respond to that letter, voicing the concerns that we may or may not have at this point. Based on public testimony and the commissioners themselves. I think that's the appropriate action here. I think that's also in the best interest of the applicants because, waiting for the formal proposal to come forward, having them spend dollars, what have you, I think they just need to hear now our concerns. And I think that was the spirit of them bringing this discussion item to us. Correct me if anybody thinks I'm wrong. So, I'd like to, of course, I want to hear everybody else's comments, but I think what I'm driving towards is I'd like to see a letter drafted, either from staff or under my signature on your behalf to the county, voicing our concerns. I want everybody else to know that should an application actually come before us, the things that have been stated about being open-minded or what have you, for lack of a better term, are no-brainers. I mean, we would have to do that. I think that anybody thinks a project of this size or substance is going to just come into this city and going to get some kind of rubber stamp and, some other form of EIR that we've seen in some recent projects, that's not going to happen. A project like this would have to go through that formal project of being approved by LAPCO, formal EIRs. I mean, just the approval project for this, something like this alone could take a couple of years, if that happens. But I know I'm being intentionally redundant right now, but I think the spirit of what this discussion was about tonight, and the meeting, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend, was for them to come to us, present their project, and hear our concerns, and I think that's the direction I would like to take. Commissioner Moore?
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing that they didn't show up, knowing that they were, this was going to be this kind of a turnout. But I have a ton of questions, but it's a lot of it's premature. There's pros and there's cons. Been on the council for 6 years and always looking for an anchor to anchor people to come to San Juan to fill the motels because, I'm looking for revenue to get police back into our city, Owen Police Department. Whatever that may be, I hear the audience talking about other ways. Well, you tell me the other ways. We don't have formula businesses. We don't, the housing, the 2 housing developments we got through will bring great families in. I understand that, but in 2010, the city didn't have 10 cents. I'm telling you, we owed $1 million, $900,000 to Paybex, $100,000 to Monterey Pen Engineering, and the city, from that point on, I think we got a budget of about $5 or $6 million. But I would be concerned that the people that have bought here for a reason. So to influx them with a racetrack I could see where they would be coming from. You know what I mean? They bought here, it was quiet, and now we got a racetrack. But just thinking about this project, and is basically BMX racing, an amphitheater, like the Shoreline, to bring people in here. But it would, they would come into the city. They would go to the restaurants, the bars, whatever, stay at the motels. But who knows? It's way early. I'm looking for a driver, an anchor for the city to support police that we need. We do not. We have the minimal protection. I mean, but it'd be great to go back in the days when I wasn't here, where there was a police department. But like I said, there's a lot of pros and cons, and I'm disappointed that they didn't show up. But I don't have much more than that to say. But thank you.
Okay. My turn now?
He should tell them.
Okay, public comments closed, thank you.
Okay, what I did is went to a little list on how to review a project. This is not really a proposed project yet, as it was my understanding that these people are just pitching an idea right now, and they are trying to get some feedback. And so that's what they want to do. But with that in mind, I want to look at what should the community look like, and my emphasis is going to be on community. Does it help meet community needs? Does the proposed project enhance the community both today and in the future? And is it consistent with the adopted general plan? And I go to resolution number 2014-22, where we declared ourselves as a model green city. And with the carbon footprint that they're talking about, I can't see how that, meets anything. I also looked at the executive summary of the general plan under land use, and the main goals of the preferred growth scenario are to prioritize non-motorized transportation within the city. That doesn't sound like this what they're proposing. Development of walking and biking trails will improve the connection of the city on both sides. Doesn't sound like they have much interest in that. Housing, having them come in with so many houses will affect our property values. And from one of the anecdotal comments that I saw during the Facebook reading that I was doing is that Laguna Seca has actually lowered some property values for anybody that's near that racetrack. This burden impacts future housing development within the city, because you're talking about 200,000 people coming into a town of less than 2,000. That's huge. I looked under conservation. And our general plan wants to conserve the area's natural resources. We want to minimize the negative impacts on the natural environment. The federal and state standards of environment regulation and mineral resources, biological resources, water resources, air quality, and energy and greenhouse gas emissions. We have a strong agricultural base of the community. Soil, mineral, and water conservation are high priorities in the community. We're partnering with regional groups to address air quality, energy use, and associated greenhouse gas emission reduction. Okay? This comes under 1.5.5 is about open space. That's the city's need for open space. And the open space is defined both for natural reasons and for agriculture. There's passive open space for recreation, the management of natural and historic resources such as scenic views and historical sites. There are over 50 acres of agricultural land in and around San Juan Bautista. There's a vast agricultural landscape that provides residents and visitors with open space and pleasant views. Okay. Most of the agricultural land interfaces with wilderness areas outside the city limit to the south and north. And these areas consist of hills, rangeland, vegetation, and wildlife habitats. In the preferred growth scenario, again, there's emphasis on additional park and open space south of the city, promotes the conservation of open space land, ensuring open space remains to act as a buffer for safety and for the protection of agricultural resources and hillsides again. Okay? Then there's 1.5.6 is talking about noise. The noise element is mandatory. The element includes goals, objectives, policies, and programs to eliminate or reduce the negative impact of unwanted sound produced in and around San Juan Bautista. Right now, our major areas of problems are truck traffic on State Route 156 and motorcycle and vehicle noise on the Alameda and 3rd Street. And the programs of this element address future conditions. Okay? And so, to me, this project isn't consistent with our general plan. And the project doesn't say anything about contributing to safeguard the city's heritage and cultural historic resources. It doesn't seem compatible with the surrounding character of the environment because the agricultural design that we want and the rural feel that we want here doesn't seem to fit. The location and configuration of the project doesn't really harmonize with the surrounding area. And the design and layout of the proposed project does not interfere with the use and enjoyment of neighboring, existing, or future development. And it should not result in vehicular and/or pedestrian hazards and promotes public health, safety, and welfare. I'm not sure that it does this. And I think it's necessary to accommodate the proposed, I'm not sure how it would help our fire department, our public utilities, our sewers, our sidewalks, our storm drains, our street lights, our traffic control devices, width and pavement of adjoining streets, and available to serve the subject site. I know LAFCO will have a hard time with this because I know that they took a big hit with, that the Pajaro Valley Water District took a big hit through the Romas Water District with supplying water to Rancho Larios, and they're never going to do that again. And I've talked to people that have told me this, that work in that water district. So to me, I just don't see the infrastructure here for that, and I see a lot of impediments. And that's where, and I'm just trying to go with what the general plan states that our citizens want for this area.
Thank you. So my comments would be that, first of all, I want to address this open-mindedness. And I think we all have to do that, particularly in our positions representing you. And I think the things that I've heard about being open-minded to are like, possibly improving or adding to our ability to process sewer, water, police services, fire services, what have you. All of those would need to be evaluated at the time of an actual application. And I'd like to say, I think they're kind of pie in the sky at this point. I think that there's been some comments by either my fellow commissioner, who I respect a great deal, Mr. Moore, about some of the developments that have come forward so far. I think, in my own personal opinion, it's a falsehood to believe that those projects benefit the community. Sure, we received some initial application fees, which increased the city coffers. The actual revenue that will come to the city from property tax, because you remember, the property taxes that you and I pay in the city, that check's made out to the county of San Benito. And if you actually look at the percentage that comes back to this city, it's like 20%. And I think most of us probably in this town pay a few $1,000s unless we own a sizable piece of property. So you think about the couple $100 a year per property that comes back here. I am really taxed, in my own personal opinion, to see how those projects benefit us, those two major housing projects. I think they're draining our resources. They're out there building, but they can't even come in for a building actual permit until we address the issues that much of you in the public have brought up tonight. We cannot issue them a building permit because we cannot, at this point, provide them with a sewer and water connection. you can't drink your water at home. The traffic for you to get to Hollister on any evening or on a Saturday afternoon, or for that matter, to Gilroy, it's just crazy. And I've lived in this town 20-something years. And I came here for a lot of the reasons you did. You know, to raise a couple boys in a community that, you know, was characteristic of where I thought they should live. You know, I'm a retired police officer and I didn't want to see them necessarily where they were. But I will be open-minded. And with the great, you know, advice from our city attorney, if they come here, I'll look at all those things. But I am hard-pressed to see how a project like that can save us. And I can also tell you that I sat here as a volunteer and then later served as one of your planning commissioners for 6 years and on your city council for 8 years and mayor of this town. This city has been bankrupt. So for me to hear, you know, we're in this, you know, greater financial position, that's great. But I don't want it to be at the expense of the character of this community and why we all live here. So I would look for a motion to direct staff to just respond to that letter, voicing our concerns that we've heard in public testimony, and then should the applicant want to come forward with a application, then we'll weigh that on its merits. But in my opinion, I don't think we should spend any more of our time or the public's time hearing about this project, because I think we've heard the concerns. So let them bring forward a proposal, should they like to do that. Then we will open-mindedly weigh that proposal. I would also ask the city attorney or UMAC to do a little homework for us so we just have it in our toolkit. I'd like to know if we would be presumed the lead agency on this project. I think we would, I'm not sure, just so we have that. So I look for a motion.
I'll make a motion that direct staff to put together a letter to the developer with the concerns of our concerns of the audience.
And the county too, right?
And the county, and then just fire that thing off.
And I second it.
You can second it. I just ask that you amend your motion to include the agency, the county board of supervisors, LAFCO, who did I leave out? Anybody that this would come before, the Monterey Bay Air Pollution, just so we can get all that on their record.
The JAP.
How about all applicable agencies?
All applicable agencies.
That's a John Hopper thing. All Are you comfortable with that?
Joint Power Authority.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, so we will... We're going to adjourn the Planning Commission meeting and call to order the Historic Resources Committee meeting.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Well, you're also in the historic resources board. You're item B, I think.
They do come That's a good question. They were asking that too. And
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Historic Resources Board of August 1st. The record will reflect that two board members, Frios and Franco, are not in attendance, having properly noticed us of their absence. At this point, I'd like to hear any public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Okay. Item 3, informal project review. Is there anybody who would like to come forward with the purpose of this portion of the agenda is for any member of the public or developer to address the Historic Resources Board on their thoughts or plans for a future project, just so we can get it within our think tank and hear about your project. Does anybody have such a project?
That's me right now, yeah.
I wanted to point out to the gentleman in the black shirt, you're the informal project review for the Planning Commission, so that'll be...
Planning Commission.
You're now, he's next. All right, so,
Hello.
just so you know.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ramona Hill. I live at 36 Monterey Street. I've opened a little studio there, Credo Studio, 1 Polk Street. I'm looking at making improvements to my entrance. Simple things, but I kind of don't know where to start. I understand that this palette here, it's a Kelly Moore historic palette. I've been informed that these are the colors choices. I just, the whole building needs painted, but I can't do that.
Is that from the paint store, officer?
Yeah, it's Sally Street, I think. First of all, I wonder if this is correct, that this is a palette that I can consider any colors here, but I want to paint just my entrance door. I'm talking about very small things here, but I want to paint just the door. So I would like to select a color that's approved by the city and my landlord. There's 3 parties there. Yes.
Sean, can I ask you a favor? Yes. Could you ask those people to step back a little bit? Sure. Thanks, Sean.
I've already had my sign approved. The 3rd thing I'd like to put out there is a message board. Just a 2x3 board where I put up the white lettering that says information about my business and schedule. I don't know, Matt, if you had a chance to look at anything on that today.
I did not. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a busy day. So in other words, I just really need an actual real-life business presence over there. And that's, so I just wanted to start. And I don't know if these things have to go through a process or not. It's... A message board is somewhat different than signage, but it may need to go through the same process, and that's what I wanted to know. Also with the color, if it's just a door, is this a formal project that I have to get approved? Or I do want approval either way, because I want to make sure that people want what I'm doing. Yes.
So again, this is an informal discussion, but I think the answers to everything you just asked is yes. Agree?
I have to check on the bulletin board, just because my initial opinion was that it would be considered a sign, but I'm not sure if there's specific language in the code related to bulletin boards versus signs. So, and then with the door color, I really, I know that is the historic color palette that we referenced in several of these site and design reviews, but the question was whether just changing the color of a door constitutes like the need for a site and design review. Seems like a lot of paperwork for that. So the question was how much oversight you want in the historic district for very, very small modifications like that. So
maybe what we can do is have her fill out the application, let's waive the fees, and just have her bring it to us, and we can invoice her.
Okay.
All right. But I've actually been through that. So what you're suggesting, messaging boards, that's a sign.
That is a sign.
In this town.
Okay.
There's precedent that that's a sign.
Oh, good. Okay. Okay, so I will come and fill out an application.
We don't want to make this painful for you, so just bring it in.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's no problem. That's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Any other informal project reviews?
Well, you're under the Planning Commission. Right now, they're the Historic Resources Board. This is only for projects that fall within the Historic District, so your project's not in the Historic District.
Anything else? Okay, Okay, action items. Approved affidavit of posting of the agenda. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm sorry.
There was a motion?
No, there wasn't. We moved that we approve the agenda.
Is that what I said?
Posting of the agenda.
Yeah.
So you made the
I said
motion, did anybody second?
I said motion to approve.
Okay.
So I have a second?
I'll second it. Do we need to vote again?
Thank you.
No, we don't need to. We're good. Okay, public hearing items. A, consider a conditional use permit for medical clinic in historic district at 301 3rd Street and make recommendations to the planning commission. Applicant is Mandisa Snooty. Staff report.
Okay, so this is the next stage in the metamorphosis of this project. I'll start by basically just going to, I'll give a little recap of last time. At the regular Planning Commission on July 10th, 2017, the Planning Commission decided to continue this item to the August 1st, 2017 meeting due to confusion over new information that was presented after that packet was sent out. So after the July 10th meeting, the applicant met with myself several times to discuss options for moving forward. And in an effort to simplify the process, the applicant decided to move the Mariposa Center and Secret Pathway segments of her business to a different location and expand the licensed physician/recommendation letter segment of the business to include multiple physicians. The reason for this would be having multiple physicians on site would unquestioningly qualify as a medical clinic, and therefore the Planning Commission would not need to make a use determination, only approve, disapprove, or issue a conditional use permit with conditions for that use. So we're back here tonight to consider the proposal as a medical clinic, which was staff's recommendation actually from the beginning. And if, after listening to the applicant come up and speak, the Planning Commission decides to issue a conditional use permit, they have to make the findings that are listed here in your staff report. And I'm not going to read through those now because you're not the Planning Commission. And then also, this would give the Planning Commission, if they issued a conditional use permit, the option to actually put conditions on it. So staff believes that due to the fact that the medical marijuana dispensaries are currently illegal in the city of San Juan Bautista, and the proposed use provides services closely linked to those of medical marijuana dispensaries, if the Planning Commission chooses to issue a conditional use permit for this use, they should consider the possibility of attaching conditions of approval to the permit that will ensure that those uses remain separate. The conditions can also include provisions that allow for easier and more effective monitoring and enforcement, and then I list the conditions. And the Planning Commission will take those up when they listen to it. Once again, this is not a dispensary, but in the evolving world between now and January 2nd, where the city is grappling on the city council level of what license types they might issue related to adult use marijuana, medical marijuana, or whatever you want to, whatever the new name is on any given day. Putting conditions on the permit were you to issue it is I think highly recommended. So I think you can discuss it and discuss whether or not, how this fits in the historic district, whether or not it fits, get into the conditions, and then if you make a recommendation one way or the other to the Planning Commission.
So if I understand the staff report, really, in addition to the limitations or conditions for approval that we place, such as no signage saying this, or no paraphernalia, or et cetera, essentially what we're making a determination on is whether or not, as a Historic Resources Board, we feel a medical clinic should be within the historic. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
And this did come up the last meeting. We've talked about on different occasions possibly adding a column to the use matrix in the municipal code for the historic overlay district, so that we'd actually have a different list of conditional and permitted uses for that specific district, which we don't have now, which would simplify this, but we currently don't have that. So
sure,
got to do them one by one at this point.
Okay. Let's hear from the applicant.
You want me to make a presentation?
Yes.
Well, you don't have to.
Your name is?
Well, my name is Mandisa Snowdy. I've provided a wealth of information, I feel, in the last 3 months about this. It's to the point where I'm going to be losing this building because of the delays of this body and also the city council. I try to simplify it because there was a big conversation about confusion about the business plan. So by putting the cultural center at another location and completely removing that from any operations, it simplifies it way down to what are we doing? Issuing recommendations. What are recommendations? They're pieces of paper that are from a doctor to a patient, recommending that that patient chooses medical marijuana if they so choose. So there would only be one activity happening on the site. As far as the historical aspect, that's the reason why I wanted to have the Cultural Healing Center, was to address that.
Let me stop you. What is the Cultural Healing Center, and you said you're going to put that someplace else. Where are you going to put it?
In the Honeymoon Cottage on 3rd and McElhinney.
Is that not within the historic resources?
It is within historic resource, but it would not have a licensed physician. It would not have medical recommendations happening at that site. It would be, I have one site where I'm offering cultural healing services, which is basically indigenous practitioners sharing their native.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is complicated, so you got to help me get through this discussion.
Yes, sir.
So is that a separate application?
That is already a permitted, the other two aspects of her business were already permitted uses in mixed use, so.
Got it. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So, trying to put all of it in one place, really, I take responsibility for it, confused people. And it led the perception that maybe I was trying to hide or be sneaky about some things, but I was really just trying to do everything at once. And my vision kind of grew as the time went on. So I don't have any more time to deliberate on this issue, which is why I've simplified it down to just, you wanted to be a medical clinic, just doing one thing, fine. I won't fight that use determination. Even though I feel like I'm not offering medical services, but I don't want to fight. I want to come to a conclusion where we can move forward, where you don't have to keep on taking up the time, spinning our wheels. It's like I'm losing money every time that we do this. I would like to pay my rent, so I hope that you find that this use is appropriate for the historical resources area of San Juan. I don't believe I have any further comments to the Historical Resources Board, unless you have questions for me.
Yeah, we got probably a few questions here, and then we'll open up to public comment too. My recollection was about 4 months ago, you came and you had an expert with you, and maybe that was under your other business plan, but you talked about some being in compliance with some provisions of the code. So help us, because we're not as educated as you are about that. One of them was that you had to remain 600 feet from schools and what have you. Was that to be a medical clinic or to be...
Just to have a business that has anything to do with marijuana, even if there's no marijuana on site, even if there's no exchange of medicine between people, the idea was to keep it away from a school so that there isn't a perception that San Juan Bautista as a city is making marijuana-related material available to kids. That is required for a dispensary or a marijuana-based business, which is not a clinic that offers recommendations. It's not technically a marijuana business. It has marijuana-related subject matter, so just because we have sensitivities as a town, that was of my own volition of if we're going to think of any marijuana-related business as the same thing, then let's just follow the same rules, keep it away from the school, Because, and that was in response to recommending I open a medical clinic in the windmill. I didn't feel like it was appropriate. I have kids that go to San Juan School. My kids' friends go to San Juan School, and I just felt like having that type of business right across the street from the school was not viable.
The same type of business you're proposing at the bank, you were going to open it with.
I was not going to open it windmill. Someone suggested, well, if you want a medical clinic, open it where medical clinics are allowed, and that's in the commercial use.
I think that was one of my comments.
And that's where Hazel Hawkins Medical Clinic or Wick Medical Clinic, and for that I said, well, no, we should keep it away from the school because everyone thinks it's a marijuana business, which
all right. Are you proposing any changes to the interior of that building? Are you going to build out any walls or anything?
We're not going to build out any walls. It was just going to be some paint. We're going to keep the exterior the same. Of course, come present you when we want to have the external signage. There was, as the Cultural Healing Center, there was going to be more improvements needed, but now that that's not going to be part of it, I just, need to set up computers, electricity, and, I won't even really need security because there won't be any valuables on site.
So, relative to the signage that you identified it perfectly, would need to come to us, what would you envision the signs outside the building saying?
Well, the sign was going to be the Mariposa Center.
Not what was it going to be? What, under this project, what would it be? Would it be medical clinic? Would it be medical marijuana cards inside? What would it be?
I imagine that I would use Optimed because the physician that I'm working with, Optimed, OPTIMED, with potentially a cross or a green cross, I of course would want to keep the signage very discreet.
With the green cross, and the green cross isn't that the sign of medical dispensaries, green cross?
It also represents like the 420 MD, which are in the Bay Area. There's in Sacramento, highly populated areas. There's multiple locations where one could obtain a recommendation, and those sometimes are just notified by a simple green cross on the door. Some of them say 420 evaluations. Some of them have like guys dancing outside. I would want to keep it more discreet and rely on word of mouth because it would be the only location in the county. Really there's one location in Santa Cruz, one in San Jose, and then there's maybe one or two doctors in Monterey. But as far as Salinas, Hollister, San Benito County is concerned, we don't have any availability for patients to obtain recommendations. We have to, even if we want to use the delivery service in Hollister, we have to go to San Jose, get our recommendation, come back here and spend our money.
A delivery service for what?
For cannabis.
Okay, we're not talking about cannabis.
Medical cannabis. Okay, so the recommendation is how you become eligible to buy cannabis. You can't just go into a dispensary or go into a delivery
service. Are we
service.
talking about a cannabis dispensary or not?
We're talking about recommendations.
Okay, all right. So, why are we talking about that?
I believe that I was just notifying you the process of to get a recommendation, what the recommendation is used for, and that there is not a business or doctors that offer that service, which is why there's a need.
Maybe I'm being rude, but I just want to... Oh, and I said this to you once before when you came to us. This is kind of sketchy, because you're talking about things that apply to dispensing marijuana. Maybe your thought process, and look, I have entrepreneurial friends, I'm a bit of an entrepreneur myself. Maybe you're thinking you get approval for this, and then come January 1st or whatever, and after the council has made their recommendations, and we do or do not have an ordinance, that you're going to do that. I think, just hear me out, with all due respect to it. I think you really need to speak to the merits of the project that you are presenting. And I think you also clearly need to understand the concerns, and I don't really have concerns, but the concerns of this commission perhaps, that if that was what you were proposing, and the attorney's going to throw something at me, I mean, we would weigh it on the merits at that time, which in that facility, in the Historic Resources District with a green cross on it, probably we would not approve. Probably, we'd have to wait and see. So, with all due respect to you as a business person, I think, and as making financial decisions, I think you really clearly need to present to us what it is you intend to do and are prepared to live with throughout the term of your lease and what have you. And I want you to take some of that as just friendly advice too. Because you're confusing me, and I don't normally get confused about these things.
So I might be able to help a little bit. I think there's a law that says that if you have a doctor making recommendations for medical marijuana, that you cannot have medical marijuana on the premises.
Ever.
I think there's a law that makes you separate those completely.
That's correct.
And so the other thing that I was just for your information, is that when this came up in the city of Monterey, and the applicant made a proposal, was the doctor, and said that she wanted to open a doctor's office to give medical marijuana recommendations, and the determination was made that it was no different than any other doctor's office, and that we needed to treat them pretty much exactly the same. And so I just think, just my 2 cents, a simplification of this application so that there's nothing sold, there's just a recommendation process. It is very similar to a medical clinic, and those are the kind of with that use, you should be looking at the traffic, the parking, the patients coming in, more so than medical marijuana being dispensed there, because that is an illegal use. And also, that's why Matt and I drafted these conditions to put on this use, so that it never would be.
No, I appreciate it. I just think that, it's confusing because a large part of this presentation discusses that issue. So,
sure.
But thank you. Yes, go ahead.
I mean, that was just never an intended use, I feel like I can open a business that's a medical clinic and offer recommendations and be pro-cannabis legislation. I think I can do both of those things without having to be stigmatized that a business offering recommendations is also a marijuana dispensary. Those are two different businesses. I've done my best to state that and educate to that point. I apologize if that's confusing. I'm doing my very best to communicate, from the knowledge that I have with the council very truthfully and honestly. You know how I feel about cannabis? And yeah, I would like to have a dispensary in San Juan. No, not on 3rd Street. Not ever in the historic district. Not ever in this building.
Yeah.
That's a completely separate issue for me. So I'm sorry if I somehow alluded to those things being melded in the future. That is not my intention. I had it written into the lease. A medical marijuana dispensary will never go into this building. I'm wanting to comply with the conditional use. Medical marijuana will never go in this building. My neighbors and my elders are saying they don't want a marijuana dispensary on 3rd Street. I want to be in compliance with that.
Okay. Anything else to add to that?
No, sir.
All right. So before I open public comment, I think it's noteworthy. So should this be approved, essentially the conditions of approval that staff has thus far outlined, and this body may or may not elect to add to based upon our own thoughts and input we get from you. That currently the conditions of approval are
Page 3.
Thank you. That there would be conditions that the permit would be immediately revoked if marijuana product is sold. Exterior storefront windows along Mariposa Street and 3rd Street frontage should be kept free from obstructions or non-transparent materials such as display cases and posters. I think the spirit of that would be to just, somebody could look in and know what was going on there or not going on there. A condition based on the items listed in California Health and Safety Code, uniform sale and display of narcotic and other paraphernalia, prohibiting drug paraphernalia on site. And then any other conditions that either limit the allowed activities or define clarity within the parameters that would be allowed. And so that would be the point where we would add conditions of approval, right?
I think in the actual planning commission resolution, I also add that the planning commission shall review the conditional use permit 6 and 12 months, similar to what we did with 18th Barrel, so.
So the things that, and I want to hear from the public, but the things, well, let's hear from the public first. Public comment on this item?
Yes, Rachel Ponce?
Rachel Ponce, 93 4th Street, San Juan Bautista. The consistency of this project, first, it was a medical clinic, then a healing center, and now a medical clinic with multiple physicians. And the fact that the city, not being able to monitor effectively the conditions of conditional use permits, are a very real concern that needs to be carefully considered. This medical clinic is not conducive to the historical district. We must preserve the historical, peaceful, and quiet atmosphere that tourists come to experience here. San Juan Bautista is very much dependent on tourism. We have to do all we can to preserve the beauty of that aspect of San Juan Bautista. Do not allow the medical clinic. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Anyone else?
No, I don't have any other speaker cards.
Anybody like to come forward? State your name and address.
Elia Salinas, I'm a San Benito County resident. I think that the confusion was when Mandisa was trying to explain what medical recommendations are for. Medical recommendations are for, as the city attorney explained, you cannot mix, you can't have cannabis products when there's a doctor. The doctor will lose his license, the facility gets closed down. So I think just because you have to have a medical recommendation in order to be a patient. So henceforth, she wanted a wellness center, she wanted the doctor to be there a couple of days a week or a couple of days a month or something until they established. I think that we all know that the bank is not over 100 years old. It happens to sit in the historical district, but it is not a historical building. The bank business itself has been closed, I think, for 5 years or something like that. The bank is not a historical business for the city. I think that having a medical clinic is not going to hinder anything to do with the atmosphere of the city. It has its own parking, so it's not going to affect any of the parking, for anybody. Traffic going in and out of there would be coming with their own parking lot. It's not going to take anything in the city. I'm a little confused. I do have a question, maybe Matt can answer when I'm off. Having a wellness center apparently is okay, so is there any reason if she got approved to have a medical doctor there, could she also continue to have the other wellness center there? This is not something I've discussed with her, this is just something that you guys brought up. So now
She's shaking her head, so I'm not going to
I'm
answer that.
bringing that issue, I'm bringing that issue back up. Yeah, but simply what she would like is she would like to open up a business where there is a doctor, and the doctor's there for whatever business hours there is, so many times a week, provide an opportunity that is not available. And I think this is where the chairman was a little confused when she said delivery of medicine or whatever, is the fact that you need a medical card, and if you're a patient in San Juan Bautista or in the county in this area, you have to have a medical recommendation card. San Benito County is not going to be recreational, it's all medical. The city of Hollister is also medical, it's not going to be recreational. San Juan Bautista, I believe you guys are going forward to the city planning, or the city council is going towards also banning recreational, so this is all medical. And I think that it would benefit the community, and it would benefit the county, and it would be fine with the city. It's not, the people are not even going to know that it's there. The citizens that don't need it are not, it's not even going to bother them, so.
Anyone else?
I don't have any others. Oh, I'm sorry, Jane Merrill.
Hello. It's been a long time since I've been in here. So, I'd like to read parts of a letter which I had sent originally to John, and then recently sent one to the other members of the planning board. And it might be easier for me, and for you to understand also. Basically, I started off recapping that my first letter on this particular subject of having to do with anything to do with cannabis, but primarily what was proposed to go into the old bank building. I started attending the meetings in June based on a number of customers that I had, and I should say that I'm a business owner in the historic district and have been such for over 19 years. Customers sometimes hear things way before I realize, what's going on. And I think that a lot of the business owners absorb these things, act professional about it, don't give opinions, but this is the way that it actually came to my attention, because I had sort of stepped back 10 years ago from being visibly involved in organizations and that type of thing in San Juan, which John may remember. Either way, I began attending meetings and sent John my first letter in July because I was concerned about this negative and controversial comments that I kept hearing from both business owners in the historic district, but more importantly, from a lot of my customers and visitors that had picked up on something, whether it was right or wrong. It had to do with people coming in thinking that there was something going on in downtown San Juan having to do with the sale of cannabis. And Matt has recapped where all of that has gone, and now we're up to where we're still talking about the bank building, but now the plan has changed. So I'll jump ahead here. The issue of cannabis, pro or con, my personal feeling has nothing to do with this, but the issue of a related facility having anything to do with recreational, medical, or cannabis itself is my concern, especially being located in the defined historic district of San Juan Bautista. That's really my stand. That's what concerns me. It does not matter whether the building itself within the historic district meets historic, age standards. There are a number of buildings within the historic district that do not meet the age standards. Okay, in the case of the applicant, looking at the bank building, 301 3rd Street, it is in the center of the historic district, not just in the historic district, a location which gets visitor sidewalk traffic of all ages, including school-age children touring the mission daily. And if you look at the figures, realistic figures, I've heard it's up to 40,000 students per year. If you do the calculations, you'll come up with at least 20,000 per year, which tour the mission, walk down. They're usually headed to the ice cream shop, but they do go in the rock shop, a number of other businesses there, plus the children that live here and go to and from school. That particular location is visually noticed and remembered, and it may raise a lot of curiosity depending upon what the signage would be out there. Having heard the applicant's presentations to both the planning board previously and the council in past sessions, I feel the business plan and products have changed with each presentation in what seems to be an effort to somehow get the approval of what still is to be a cannabis-related business in the center of the historic district. The applicant's mission statement and business plan were handed out at the last meeting I attended. I found them very vague and unclear, or nebulous, if you'd like to use that word.
Can you give me 1 more minute, Jane?
Yes, loosely stated and questionable meaning. The applicant revised written plans, which I viewed on the city website, but then those plans seem to have been slightly different than what was presented this evening already. But there is still a reference to cannabis because of the medical marijuana, referral that the doctors would do. No matter how it's somewhat vague or disguised, I feel this facility described as 2 separate business names at one point under a medical category, with or without conditions, is an inappropriate business within a historic district, especially a historic district as small as the one here in San Juan Bautista. Business owners and organizations continue to support and attract visitors to San Juan Bautista in many ways to shop, dine, and lodge. But I urge you to consider the historic district and this not being appropriate for that. Thank you.
Good to see you again. Thank you for coming.
Mariana Thomas.
45 Monterey Street. I did pick up at the last meeting the 2 mission statements for this business. And having taught school to the military for 30 years, I said, there's nothing clear here. Absolutely nothing. Okay? To bring balance into balance the mind, body, spirit, I do that, try to do that every day. People, we cannot afford to accept anything like this, and I would send the applicant back. I would not have anybody else speak for her. I wouldn't want anybody speaking for me if I'm going to do something as serious as this. And I would send the applicant back to clearly define and not be offended by all of us stating what we need to say here. Clearly define what her business is going to be. 1, 2, 3. Why is it a contribution to the community? 1, 2, 3. So, a business approved on these statements with a conditional use permit, we never enforce conditional use permits here. I've tried that with people who are building 2 houses next to where I live. They didn't care. So you have to consider, on paper, it's one thing, but here I think you really do need a very clear business statement on paper. This is not clear at all. It has no substance.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Maria Matrico.
Hello, my name is Maria. I live on 24 North Street. So I spoke last time on this subject about what I believed that location needed to be, and I disagreed that it should be any kind of medical anything, because it's in the middle of the historic district. Now that I'm hearing all of this, I'm really concerned about what kind of customer this clinic is going to attract to San Juan. I mean, it was just mentioned that there's only a few of them, in each of these cities. I mean, you have to ask why. You have to ask yourself why there's so few of them, and now we want to bring one here. Now, the applicant also said that she wouldn't put it near the windmill because of the students, but those same students have to cross this, have to cross that area. There is still going to be visible. Just because it's just 1 or 2 blocks down doesn't mean it's out of sight, out of mind. It's going to be right in front of us. So we have to really consider what it's going to give to the community. And we have no police force. The kind of customer that's going to come in, are you going to guarantee me what kind of mental state that customer is at? They're asking for marijuana. That's what they're asking for. They're getting a recommendation for a substance that is not legal in the United States, federally. It may be legal in for the state of California, but still it's not. And who's going to protect our community? How do I know that person who's getting that recommendation where is he going to go? How much are we going to bring that kind of customer in? We have to think about that. And then do we want to be known? Do we want to be known for that? In the historic district, I don't. I don't want the town to be known as the, oh yeah, that's where you get the pot. I want us to be known, yeah, that's where we go, our school children, and this is where we have great beer, and this is where we have great restaurants, and this is every coming town. I mean, whatever, I mean, you know, that's all. Even with the bars, and the situation and the things that bring with the bar and the alcohol, I mean, we can barely manage that, okay? So now we're going to add another element to that. So this is just my thoughts as a mother, as a resident. Thank you.
Thank you, Rand.
Thank you.
Joanne?
I didn't put in a card, I hate to pass the paper. Just a quick one. Okay, 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago, my late husband, my first husband's doctor, prescribed THC for him. We went to a pharmacy and we picked it up. I can't believe that doctors nowadays whose patients need THC or will be helped by THC, marijuana, won't write them that prescription today. My understanding of the doctors who do it for just the medical cards alone, who maybe aren't your normal physician that you go see, will write those for pretty much anybody who comes in the door. And I would rather, I'd like to know from any of you who know, can't a doctor provide you with a medical card, any doctor, or is it only certain doctors can provide you with medical cards?
So I don't think most will. I think most doctors would decline to do that because of their license being impacted by it being a federally illegal substance.
But how did they
And the organizations they work
THC in the past?
for, like the organization my wife works for won't let them do it either, so some of it comes from within the big, larger health organizations.
So how did they prescribe it in the past? Because,
So I believe it was a synthetic compound that they used to prescribe in the past. It wasn't actual marijuana.
Okay, so most doctors can't, I guess, give you these medical marijuana cards for various reasons, like they'd lose their license, that's a good reason. But nonetheless, I don't know why we need that here. If you really need medical marijuana, you're going to go to Santa Cruz or wherever to get it, just like you are for the marijuana itself. You're going to go wherever you need to go for the card. And I just don't really understand why it's such a pressing need, other than a person signed a lease, and that's not our fault, for that building, why we would have to have it here. Thank you.
Anyone else like to come forward? Come on up.
Hi, good evening, Jackie Morris, Mission Street. I'm just sitting here witnessing this, and I guess I'm really just speaking to the fact that I think I'm really getting the impression real hard that people are uninformed still, sitting behind me, sitting there at the table. I feel that I'm probably speaking up to the fact that you all still need to go home and do your homework. What I'm hearing here is that the town is okay with having ABC licenses dispensed to quite a few people coming in. It's okay for school children to walk past drinking establishments that spill out into the streets and smoke cigarettes. That's okay with some people, but it's not okay for a legal herb that has now been proven to have medicinal value and is now being legalized in our state for recreational use for consenting adults, okay? We have a dilemma here. I feel like this poor young woman has been beaten up, and I'm coming here to her defense just so that you folks can go home and do your homework. Compare this. Alcohol okay? Medicinal marijuana not okay? Wellness clinic not okay? Bars okay? Breweries okay? What gives with this city? How do you come to these decisions? It's really baffling to me as a medical professional, because I'm reading here who can prescribe medicinal marijuana. Just about anyone that has a medical license that chooses to. I have a PA license, I can write for opiates. I choose to write for some, others I don't, because I feel that I want to be able to feel comfortable and have my patients know that I am prescribing those chemicals, because they are chemicals. Marijuana is a plant that happens to have a chemical reaction, just like alcohol does, just like Norco does, just like Vicodin does. So I really feel that the direction that this council, and in all due respect to everyone's opinion here, I just don't see where it's okay to walk past bars and not okay to walk past a wellness clinic that is not a dispensary. And what I heard this young lady describe to me personally, I'm not speaking for her, but what I understood, because if you all recall a few meetings back, I was one of those folks that said, no, I don't want this in the historical district. I don't want it in the bank. Then I started to listen, educate myself more, listen to her dialogue, listen to where she was coming from, and then interject my own beliefs about this substance, this natural substance, and how it is beneficial to a lot of people. And why should our folks that live in the county go elsewhere? And I'll keep this short. So what her explanation was, a wellness clinic. And what I understand that to be is that it's not going to be a dispensary, and there is possibly a physician there that can recommend, not do medical examinations, but recommend, along with the wellness part of it, which sounds really healthy. It's like teaching healthy diet, maybe some yoga classes, interventional wellness. I don't always feel like writing a prescription is the answer to every ailment out there. I educate my patients about that. I feel in a lot of instances it's just pure toxic substances. So I implore that you guys go home, do some more homework, and please don't beat up this young lady. She's trying to be a business owner. And yes, maybe she's trying to meld and mold, because I've seen other business owners come here and amend their first initial projects, come back to the table with an amended project. Give her that opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to limit this to one more comment after this.
Okay, yes, I'm Ramona Hill, 36 Monterey Street, and I just wanted to say that these are patients like every other person, okay? I just wanted to say these people are patients that come to get a recommendation. We know what a patient is. They're any of us. I also wanted to say, in terms of offer to the community, advantage to the community, one thing is that the patients in our county will have this service inconveniently located. That's simple. The other thing is there is a financial benefit. There will be whatever revenues come to the city through it. And that hasn't been brought up, but it's part of it. So that question came up. Could there possibly be any benefit? Those are a couple I can think of.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the public comment, bring it back to the commission for discussion and any additional questions to the applicant. Mr. Moore.
I have a question on the medical doctor that's there, or I'll ask this is directed to our city council too. Can a physician in the state of California, County of Santa Cruz, United States, federally, are they allowed to issue these cards? My question is, how about federally? Because federally supersedes, the state. I want to know, the feds, I guess my question is pretty simple. Can they issue these cards, legally?
So the state of California set up this program where a physician has to issue this doctor's recommendation. And there are some doctors that choose not to do it because they feel like there could be some ramifications because it is a federally prohibited substance. There are other doctors that feel strongly that patients should have this as medicine, and they come in and they give the recommendations, and I believe they do more than just write them. They see the patient, they discuss the problems the patient has, and then based upon those problems they determine if marijuana is recommended and what types of marijuana. That's my understanding. So it's legal under the state of California. The feds have not come in and prosecuted anybody for doing this. I don't know, tomorrow, well, we don't know if the federal attorney general is going to be there tomorrow, but assuming that he is for the next day or week, he has said that he would go against marijuana at some point. So, and the Trump administration has said they are going to go against marijuana. So the laws will change, and it could become enforced.
The federal government...
It's not enforced.
Well, no, not enforced, but it's not, they don't look at it, if you went to the feds, they're not in agreement with the cards being issued, correct?
It's an illegal controlled substance.
Right, it remains a legal controlled substance, so, right. So I don't know that the doctor actually, for giving the recommendation, actually is giving a controlled substance, but it's still, I know that some doctors are worried about it.
I think you can also get these cards on the internet. Am I wrong about that? I think my son got his out by the internet.
Oh, that's interesting. I just would like to know more about the advantages. I know it's a convenient location for patients to come to get a recommendation, but they don't get the card there. They get the card there also? Okay.
What a recommendation is the card.
Okay. And then, since the talk about revenues came up, I'd like to know just what does the city get out of this in the way of revenues?
My understanding is we're talking still to the Historic Resources Board, so have we moved on to the Planning Commission? Is this still Historic Resources?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Okay, well...
Just because we're going to talk about this at the Planning Commission...
I'll wait until then.
Okay.
Despite whether anybody thinks that I need to be educated or not educated about this, I am very well educated about it. I am a strong supporter of medical marijuana. I don't happen to have the need to use it. I think there is a place for medical marijuana in this community. I know we're not talking about medical marijuana, supposedly, although sometimes I wonder if we're not. I do take exception to the fact as to whether or not I, John Hopper, am well educated about this subject, because I really am. I think that some time ago, with this applicant, and with many other people that have asked me for my opinion on this, I thought that this could be a strong business opportunity for the city of San Juan Bautista, and I thought it could provide a very strong and well-needed service to members of our community. So having said that, I just want to go on the record saying I am well educated and I understand. The issue before us tonight is really about the use within the historic resources of our district. And I think that's what we really need to focus on. What would be an appropriate use within that building? And I told staff when I received an update from the last meeting, this meeting, about what was going to be on the agenda here. I myself said I want to be very open about this. My paramount concern, and why I think I said to the applicant some time ago, my memory could be wrong, but I think I say this on the record, that a medical clinic is really not an appropriate use, I don't think, within the historic resources area. I think that should be pushed to someplace like Windmill Market or something like that. So I think I'm the one maybe that provided that suggestion, if you will. My concern is that any conditions of approval that we're going to put, if we were to approve this, would be so greatly restrained for you that I don't think, other than by true word of mouth, it's going to be successful for you there. I mean, I'm not going to allow, as part of the sign process, a green cross, 420, anything like that. Thousands of fourth graders, unfortunately, walk by all the bars in this town, and would be walking by this newly permitted use in our town. And so I'm not in favor of this medical clinic usage. I don't think I'd be in favor of it if it was a dentist, to be honest with you. I just think it's a poor use of that particular facility. Medical clinics are not currently allowed within the historic districts. Henceforth, this is why this would be a conditional use permit. And so those are my opinions. So what is the action item here?
Make a recommendation to the Planning Commission from the Historic Resources Board.
Okay. Mr. Moore?
Well, I kind of spoke my piece. I kind of agree with you. I'm looking at more of what the feds, the federal, the law, and some doctors issue it, some doctors don't. I don't believe that. I agree with you that it should be downtown, and I'm not in favor of moving these forward at this time.
I come to this with mixed feelings. I know that medical clinic is not a desired use for this particular location. And I know that signage is going to be a huge issue. So, plus,
You don't have to make a statement.
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
I'm conflicted.
Okay. So I would make a motion that we recommend to the Planning Commission not to approve this application. We'll look for a second.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go back. Okay, item B, consideration of conditional use permit for on-site alcohol sales at 106 3rd Street, and make a recommendation to the Planning Commission. Applicant Sean Fitzharris. Staff report, please.
Okay, so Mr. Fitzharris came and gave a presentation recently about trying to do a project at on the Alameda in Larry Kane's building, the old corrugated timber. And after working with us for a little while, I think that he realized that project's going to take a little longer than he thought. And he can correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, but then looked into the newly vacant space at the Mission Gallery by Amy June at that end of town in Pat Garrett's building. So the property is located in the mixed-use zone. It's in the historic district by the intersection of Franklin and 3rd Street, right on the other side of Donia Stairs, in between Donia Stairs and Visions of Christmas. And then when I started looking into this, I realized that in the use matrix, it's C and P, which is conditional and permitted, which doesn't make any sense because those are mutually exclusive.
Can you expand on that just a little bit?
So the use matrix generally is where the city over time states whether or not a particular use is permitted or not permitted in certain zoning areas within the city. Usually, they'll just be by category, industrial, mixed use, commercial, residential, all the rest, and there's, the uses all on the left and the zones all along the top of the table, and there's a P, a C, or nothing usually, or sometimes there's an S for site review. But it's not supposed to be a C and a P, because if it's permitted, then it shouldn't be conditional. It's conditional, it's not permitted. So this has a C and a P. And to complicate this a little bit further, when Amy June went in, it was simply treated as a permitted use. So what I did, just because I think the Planning Commission needs to have a little bit of oversight in matters like this, is I approached Mr. Fitzharris and said, would you mind applying for a conditional use permit that will cover the property, because the conditional use permit runs with the land and would cover both uses on that site. I mean, same use basically, but that use on that site. So he came in and applied for it. Let's see, like I said, the Amy June wine tasting room is already there, so this would balance out sort of the downtown strip between 18th Barrel here and the Mission Gallery with wine and beer tasting at both ends. I know people have expressed concerns about having lots of alcohol permits in town, but at the same time, when we're talking about becoming a tourist destination where people can come and stay at a hotel, walk around, look at art, appreciate history, and taste wine and beer without having to drive anywhere, there are plenty of great examples of in towns in California that have done this, and it's a big economic driver. So that's one sort of economic argument for it. The same thing is with the other one. If you want to move forward with this, the Planning Commission will have to make the findings about it being necessary and desirable, properly related to other uses, will not adversely affect the health and safety of the people in the downtown. The parking issue is one that always comes up with downtown businesses, and so I went through and did the analysis of the amount of spots within 150 feet of it, and they were way more parking spots than they actually need. Their business would require 21, and there's actually 39 spots within 150 feet, so they definitely satisfy that requirement. So staff would recommend that you approve it based on your discussions here tonight, and if you'd like to put conditions on there similar to the 18th Barrel in terms of hours of operation, they're not proposing live music or anything, but if you want to make sure that they don't do it at that end of town or something, you can put other conditions on there as well.
And food trucks.
So.
Okay. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yes, hi. So as Matt mentioned, we were previously looking at Larry Kane's building and have come to the realization that it's probably going to be some time before it's in a usable state for us. And certainly as part of our business, we need to start moving forward with retail sales, and this will enable us to have our tasting room and interact with our customer base and tell people our story, and certainly about our products, and they can be able to consume them on site and so on.
Great. And so it's substantially different than what you brought before?
Yeah, because previously we were looking at a whole potential outdoor beer garden area and potentially brewing on site, which we're not doing any of that. This is really just we would have had the tasting room on site as well before, but this is just the tasting room function.
Okay.
And
so I would imagine, and I think Amy June does this, so when you apply for your ABC permit, there might be like a little, what am I trying to say, chained-in area right around the door of your business or something like that?
That may come later. It's not in our initial plan to do that. Everything would be kept inside. So they currently do, they went through the process of getting permitted to allow that outdoor space that they have. We may in the future request that, but that would be through we'd pursue the conditional use permit and do all that stuff at that point in time. Right now, it's really just to facilitate we wanted to keep it simple with everything, licensing and all that stuff. Just keep it inside for now. Don't complicate it by being outside and all that stuff. So.
Great.
And just so you know, the use is on-site sales of alcoholic beverages. That's the use that we're talking about here. So I don't think I stated that in my report.
Yeah, on-site sales.
And that's subsequent to the ABC licensing? Is this a Type 21 license?
So it'd be a duplicate Type 23. So we already have an original Type 23, which is the brewery. It's a small brewer's license, basically. Small beer manufacturer is what the license is. So we're allowed duplicate 23 licenses that do not allow for brewing, but they allow for the tasting room function.
So if somebody wanted to buy a growler or something like that?
Yeah, we can do, so again, this is about on sale because there's a permitted use already for off sale, so that's allowed today. But yes, as part of our plan, we would do off sale as well.
I'm sorry, under this, I was confusing that with the ABC provision, so I'm with you.
Yeah, this conditional use is just about the on sale portion.
I'm with you.
It's already permitted to allow the off sale. Our license allows for the off sale and on sale.
Okay.
So.
All right. Commissioner Moore, did you have anything else you want to add, Mr. Fitzgerald?
Nope.
All right. Anything?
No, I have no questions about this.
Okay, open it to public comment. Is there any additional staff comment? Okay.
I don't believe so.
Public comment?
No speaker cards.
No speaker cards? Okay, so hearing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Now, or the Historic Resources Board.
Historic, yes.
So I think the types of conditions, Mr. Fitzharris, that we'll want to discuss with you, really, we'll take those up in the planning commission portion of this. I think there are going to be obvious things that would be relative to the historic district, like signage, and we may have some other issues I want to address with you, so if you've been patient, we'd appreciate it. I'd look for a motion to approve the application.
You just read off 6A at the end of the... You just read off 6A at the end of the staff report. That's recommended the planning commission adopt.
So I'm going to abbreviate it somewhere. It's not 6A, is it?
Well, sorry, it's 6A at the end of my staff report. So this is item 5B, and then go to the very last page, the back of the second page. Yeah.
So I look for a recommendation that the planning commission adopt resolution 20, that's not it, is it?
That's it.
A resolution of the planning commission of the city of San Juan Bautista approving a conditional use permit for on-site sales of alcoholic beverages at 106 3rd Street. That's such a motion?
I move that we recommend a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving a conditional use permit for on-site sales of alcoholic beverages at 106 3rd Street.
Second? Second. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention? Okay, the motion carries.
Is that it for this?
Okay, members of the Historic Resources Board, are there any comments? City staff?
No, I think we might want to consider taking up, adding that column to the use matrix at some point here. So if you'd like to direct staff to bring that back at some point, let me know. I don't know whether we want to do that before or after, but we're going to have to rearrange the use matrix a bit with the whatever comes out of the cannabis proceedings in terms of license types. So I don't know if you want to do that now and have to do two separate revisions, or whether we should just do one comprehensive revision of the use matrix a little bit later on, say around like December.
My personal opinion would be we wait for guidance from the...
Yeah, but that's still part of the
city council.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a waste of energy. I mean, don't take this wrong, I think it's a waste of energy to do that until we really know what, by statute, we're going to be able to do in this town, or by ordinance, I should say.
Okay.
Okay, look for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting of the Historic Resources Board.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, let's move then to reopen the regular planning commission meeting of October 1st. We already did a roll call. Don't believe I opened it to public comments for items not on the agenda, or did I? Did I? Does anybody have any public comment on items that aren't on the agenda for the planning commission?
Lady Vaults, 41 Monterey Street. I've been talking to Matt and sending emails, and last meeting they said for open discussion would be about traffic, and it didn't come on the agenda for this thing. I know you've been really busy today, but I would just like to have it come back sometime to be put on the agenda.
Traffic?
Traffic.
In
you two weren't here, but Darlene brought it up as being one of the priorities for discussion.
Well, yeah.
Okay, we did have some discussion about this as one of the goals of things that we wanted to talk about, Matt. There was kind of a pecking list of stuff, so...
I just wanted to reflect. I know you're going to be really busy. I know you got water problems, you got racetrack problems, you got...
It's not a matter of us being busy. I mean, it's a matter of us just...
But we even had an accident today, head-on today.
Out on the 156?
No, right in front of my house.
Wow.
Fourth and Monterey.
Wow.
She even helped a baby out of the car.
Yeah.
So, it's just,
I'm just a joke.
Yeah.
it's just gone, I've been expressing numerous times about how busy that Monterey's has gone crazy. And it's not tourists, it's locals. And with this new housing that's got approved, and I've been told that 3rd Street will be recognized to having some signage or whatever, but I'm kind of thinking, I looked up the codes that it could be just management approval just to get sidewalks. Kids walk there. We don't even have crosswalks on 4th and Monterey.
You said sidewalks or you meant
I meant crosswalks.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mandisa, for being a good public servant and helping out there.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Okay. No other public comment. We'll move forward to informal project review. I think that's you. Is there staff comments?
I would just say that staff has met with Mark, who I haven't actually officially met, and his wife, Jeanette, has come in a few times to talk about this property that he's going to tell you about the proposed development for. And I want to see what he says, because I don't know what he's going to present to you guys here, and then I could possibly have some things to add. So.
Great, welcome, sir.
Okay, thanks. I'm actually excited to be here. I'm excited to talk to you about this. So my wife and I, we've got 4 kids. We moved down here. We wanted to move straight to San Juan Bautista because I work at Anzar High School. I teach some upper level math classes there. And we really wanted to get into the area, but we couldn't. We found there was a housing shortage and we weren't able to. And we said to ourselves, well, we should do something about this. So it looks like we finally, we've managed to find a parcel. I assume you know about it. It's currently owned by John Nyland. It's 4 acres. It's just south of Highway 152. And
156.
Oh, I'm sorry. So,
152 is by Gilroy.
Yeah.
That's all right. You're good.
So anyway, we would like to build. We'd like to build a 3-bedroom on it, and we'd also like to build a smaller 2-bedroom on that, if it's allowed. We have all kinds of ideas for what we want to do, but we wanted to talk to you about it and get a little bit of your advice about style, about color, about how whatever it is that is an issue here to San Juan Bautista. We know it's a historic town. I don't think that what we're wanting to do should really conflict with any of the issues that you're thinking about, but we definitely want to talk to you about it, and we hope to make this project work.
Okay, questions from the commissioners? And I'll bring this back for questions, of course, after public comment.
This is inside the city limits?
It is. It's just for the crowd. It's 400 Lawson Drive, so it's the last parcel on the left. If you were driving up to the reservoir on top of the hill, it's the last parcel on the left before you sort of zig left and go up the steep part.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you'll have to take me for a ride up
Probably
there.
the old Nyland Ranch, John Nyland, I think, probably would say.
Yeah, it's got a slope on it. I mean, not all of the property looks like it would be easy to build on, but there's definitely flat areas that we could.
When you say build on, but in here there's either manufactured or modular homes.
Well, we're wanting to put a manufactured home on as a 3-bedroom, and then we understand that there's an allowance for what's known as a granny flat for like a small 600 square foot dwelling as well, and that we would probably build directly on site.
Okay.
Okay. Bear with us for a moment.
No problem.
Public comment on this item. Do we have speaker cards? Any? You just step aside for just a moment. Thank you.
I know that parcel extremely well. I walk my dog up to the water tank that way quite often. And I believe we had a project for that some time back. Now, I don't think any of you were on the planning commission. I'm sure Trish remembers. If you were here. There was a project presented for that, so I assume you're not the same person no.
There was some talk of it, but nothing ever came.
Yeah, it was put forward like yours, and at that time I spoke for that project, and I would be for this project also. I would have, as a neighbor, I would live right around the corner from that, and I would have no problem with a house going on that parcel. It's within the city limits. I believe it's possible the last person dropped out because there is no water, there is no sewage, there is no electrical, and so it would be quite expensive, I'm sure, to build on that parcel, but it's just another home in the neighborhood to me. I mean, it's kind of a pretty hillside, but I'm sure the planning commission will make sure that he makes his home fit in with the 4-acre parcel, and if that includes a granny unit and that's permitted, I would certainly, as a neighbor, have no problem.
Or an adjacent F1 Formula racetrack.
That doesn't fit in with the neighborhood.
Right. Joanne, thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Okay.
So can I add a few more things?
Yes, please.
Okay, so now that everybody has to say, so this parcel has been the subject of a lot of inquiries, so I've spent a lot of staff time on this. And the reason why most people have been dissuaded from pursuing it have to do with the fact that there are some unstable slopes on that hillside. I've provided the topo maps to pretty much everyone who's inquired just to show them, the lines very close together indicating that it's steep and the squiggly lines indicating where landslides have happened. As Jolene brought up, there's not a current water connection, there's not a current sewer connection, so those are added costs that would have to be, they'd have to actually pay to build the piping to, there is a water line running down the hill that they could get to, and then they'd have to pipe all the way down to Washington, I believe, for the sewer. But these are not insurmountable hurdles. In addition, it's in our hillside overlay district, so that actually gives both city administration and planning commission a good deal of oversight on this. So if the applicant is willing to put in the time to do the pre-application for hillside development, the application for hillside development, including all of the things in Chapter 1108, which is our hillside development regulations, which includes geotechnical reports and things of that nature, calculating slope and figuring out where exactly what the color palette for the hillside is, preliminary landscaping plans, elevations, things like that. It's doable, not just to an engineer who says everything's doable. And then also it would require a site and design review, and then of course building permits. So those are the challenges with the site, and then if they ever did want to subdivide it, they'd have to do a minor tentative map to do something like that. So I've laid all of that out for them, and they're still very interested, so staff is happy to work with Planning Commission and the applicant to move this project forward if they, if you guys give them the nod that this is an acceptable proposal.
Okay, I'll start off. I mean, the only concern I would have would be relative to the hillside ordinance and view shed. If you're willing to spend the money for engineering, figure out sewer, water, what have you, which currently nobody can get water from the city or sort of, good luck to you. But my primary concern if this were to come before us would be the whole view shed issue. And it kind of goes like this. If you're in downtown San Juan Bautista, I'm sure you've read the document relative to this, correct? About the hillside and view shed issues?
Well, I mean, the property was visible from almost all of San Juan Bautista, and it actually has an excellent view itself.
The upper elevations. Right, and so that's what I'm getting to. If you were to build below that, I wouldn't see any issues. If you're going to build above that, I think you're probably going to perhaps have some issues.
So what we're wanting to do is mostly build below it. We are wanting to put a lot of trees on, especially the area that's been heavily sloped, because there's not much else that could be done with that land. We have all kinds of trees we want to build. I could show you some pictures of the homes that we're proposing if you're interested.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then I'm
well. I don't want to speak for these folks, but it might be a little bit too premature. But all I'm just saying to you, if this came to us as a formal application, my concerns, and that's the purpose of you being here tonight, would be just view shed issues. There's been a lot of projects that have been proposed, not only on that property, but the property immediately to the left of that, in fact, directly behind where Jolene lives and farther down the street where I live. And those were all, the primary issue for the community was just the view shed, that you would see those homes here. There were a few homes that were approved in 1990. When were the Stevens homes approved up there, the latter ones? Joey, 91 maybe?
Oh.
Some time ago, there were some homes that were approved directly on top of the hillside, and they were actually supposed to not be visible for town. The rooftops were supposed to be below, but the county, didn't enforce that. It just never occurred. So, I'm rambling here, but I just want you to know the big concern would be how visible are they from town? And then, of course, even if they were, perhaps you could come in with some kind of mitigation. I don't know, would that be trees, screening?
I'd like to plant a lot of trees. We've been looking at all kinds of fruit trees and other, it's zone 9, so we want things to be fairly natural to the environment and so on.
Okay,
Okay.
Commissioner Boyd?
Well, I don't have any issues with this. Sounds like a lot of money. A substantial investment that you're going to be making. I'm just hoping that we have our water and sewer issues ironed out by the time you get ready to hook up. So.
My wife's handling all the finances. I actually wanted to be here with her, but so many kids, and there's no way that they would.
Well, yes. They can be disruptive.
Yeah.
Well-behaved kids are welcome. After all, they let me come here. Commissioner Moore? I'm good. Okay. All right, so, whatever decisions you make, work with Matt. I'm sure he'll facilitate anything.
Okay, if you have design or color and those kinds of things, you can take care of it?
Yeah,
Pretty much.
Yeah, the first thing would be doing that pre-application for hillside development, and that would just be meeting with me and Roger. So that would be your first step. And then from there, we'd go to the hillside development permit part that would come back to these guys, and that's when we'd start looking at all of those design documents and everything.
Okay. The only other thing that I do want to mention is there's an issue about the street name. I understand that it's supposed to be Lasuan, but all of the street sign says Lausen, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. There's an issue, and it's actually been floating around for a while now. John Nyland wanted to see that something was.
What did John Nyland say the name of the street is?
I believe it is Lasuen.
Then I'm pretty sure that's what it is. If that's what the Nyland family says it is, that's probably what it is.
So, is anything, this isn't an issue of particular concern to me, I did just want to raise it. Is it going to be...
I don't want to get in the weeds here, and I don't want to be rude. You guys can figure that out. You might even be able to rename the street.
It's Google's fault, because Google calls it Lausen, I think so.
Google.
Whatever those street signs are, one of those street signs has been there for 20 years. And I'm sure the Nyland family probably put it up, so.
Well, some of the ads, I think that people came in and were crying about Polk Street, and I think it's because they thought Polk went across or under or something, and so, yeah.
Well, the point is we can get it figured out.
Yeah, you guys can figure it out.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry to be rude. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 4, consent items. I look for a motion to approve the consent items on the agenda. A to B.
All matters listed on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we approve the affidavit of posting agenda and we approve the affidavit of posting public hearing notice.
Okay, hold that thought for just a minute. I made a technical error. Is there any member of the public that would like to remove any of the items that are on the consent agenda for discussion? And any members of the commission? Okay, so that was your motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Public hearing. Consider a conditional use permit. Oh, I already did that. No. Consider a conditional use permit for a medical clinic in the historic district at 301 3rd Street. Applicant Mandisa Snooty. Consider resolution 2017 making a determination for categorical exemption for conditional use permit for medical clinic under section 15332 of CEQA. And number 2, consider resolution 2017 approving a conditional use permit for medical clinic at 301 3rd Street. So what's the technical way to handle this? And the historic board made a recommendation to uphold that decision?
Just depends on whether you needed to discuss anything else.
I actually think you have to make findings at this point, so if you're going to deny it, it's likely to be appealed to the city council, so you want to give the reasons why, and so if you look at the findings on this project, you might want to see if the findings don't apply and make a new finding for denial.
Okay.
Okay, we gotta find that one, huh?
So, ask for the motion first and then make findings, or make findings first, then?
Well, you're going to need to open this up to the public still and hear from the applicant, so I would recommend that you take care of that, and then when you go to craft the motion, if, we don't know how it'd be, but if you were going to approve, you could approve what's here. If you're going to deny, then you should make a finding for why you're going to deny, and there's 3 findings here, 4. You can make one of those findings against if you have the rationale.
Okay. Any additional staff comments?
No, I think I had asked her about this previously, about what you were required to do in terms of findings, and, based on the discussion you had earlier, the fact that it has to be found to be necessary and desirable, I think, based on your discussions, could be you could say it's not necessarily desirable, not properly related to the other uses in the area, which I think is expressed through people's desire to not have that particular use in the downtown area, and then also that will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons living and working in the vicinity. People talked about the school children walking by, and I don't know, the people who might visit the clinic, and it seemed to like those were sort of safety concerns. So I think those could be adequate findings for disapproval if you choose to do so.
Okay. I'm guessing is there any comments by the commissioners before I open up to public? Okay, any additional public comment on this item? Do we have any speaker cards?
No.
Okay, we'll close the public comment. So, I would look for a motion to uphold the decision of the Historic Resources Board. I think that's the right motion. And make findings relative to such. So the first one would be that it's not a necessary use. The use does not conform with other uses permitted in the surrounding area. That there is concern based upon large numbers of children and others congregating in the area and visiting the area. Mr. Moore, any additional?
No.
Madam City Attorney, does that seem sufficient?
I can write that up.
You didn't mention historic, so I just would, other uses in the area or the historicity of the area or something like that would be.
Yeah, it's not compliant.
It's got to be related use to the historic.
Yeah, it's not in character with the historic district permitted uses and or character. Did I say character is the first word?
Or what do they call it, the supporting uses or the, what is the, do you remember the word map from the?
Properly related uses?
Yeah, the related uses.
Properly related uses, probably. Okay, Commissioner Boyd, anything else you'd like to add?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, so that would be my motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
I don't get an opportunity to say anything was wrong or no?
I think you called for public
I
comment.
asked for public
You didn't hear
comment.
from the applicant, you just made a decision, so yeah, is it done?
Well,
Well-
call for public comment, so.
I'm not public though, I'm the applicant. What you said was that you had the opportunity to hear from the public or from the applicant. I'm just checking.
If you.
Would you like to come forward?
Did you just make a decision or just ask?
No, we haven't voted yet. I called for a motion, so if you'd like.
Go ahead and complete it, I'm just, like, this process, like,
Okay, thank you. All right, so all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. All right.
And our next item is...
Okay, the next item is to consider conditional use permit for on-site alcoholic sales at 106 3rd Street, applicant Sean Fitzharris. Any additional staff report?
Don't believe so. I expressed the concern here. You know, I'd like to address in the future the inconsistency in the matrix with the C and the P. But given the discussion in the Historic Resources Board of this and the recommendation to approve, I think you could move forward with the discussion of what conditions you might want to put on it and making sure that you verify that the findings are there in terms of the use.
Okay. Before we open it to public comment, Commissioner Moore?
I don't have any at this time.
Commissioner Boyd?
I don't have anything at this time either.
Okay, I'd like to open this up to public comment, and then we might want to hear the applicant if you have anything else to add. I think we will have some questions and some comments relative to findings. Any members of the public that wish to voice additional public comment?
Elia Salinas, San Benito County resident. I just find it ironic that you're about to approve another ABC licensed business in town. He already has one. Why do you need two? The kids walk right by there, that you have this concern about the kids, you have this thing about it's okay to drink alcohol, but you can't have medicine in this city, what people consider to be their medicine. It's kind of disappointing that you want to allow another ABC license. This is a very, very small city. It's a town. And you want to keep it historic, and you want to keep it quaint and tiny, and yet you're ready to do this. Just express that.
Thank you. Any additional public comment? Okay.
yeah, he has something to say.
Somebody raised
Yeah,
their
go
hand.
forward.
You gotta understand, this is not gonna be a bar, this is gonna be a tasting room that the gentleman makes beer and root beer. That's all it's gonna be. It's just like going into a wine tasting building. You go taste the wine, if you want some, you buy it. That's what it's all about. It's not gonna be a hangout that people go in there and get drunk. So that's just...
Thank you, sir. Any additional public comment? Okay, we'll close the public comment. Let's take a pause here, I think, for Matt to come back.
Poor guy.
Actually, let's continue on with comments. Commissioner Moore?
I don't have any.
Commissioner Boyd?
I
anything?
don't have any either, thank you.
Okay, so I do want to wait for Matt to come back, Mr. Fitzharris, so we can go through just the conditions of approval.
Here he comes. Poor guy.
So Matt, we're just about to bring forward a motion for denial. We're going to go through the conditions of approval. Why is my binder? Let's see, what did I do here? It's not your fault, Trish, I took it apart. Let's see. Matt, I'm looking for the findings section.
It's the second page of the staff report. That's also included in the resolution too, but.
So it should be 5B, right?
Yes.
Oh, here it is. Let's go back here. Okay, fellow commissioners, the findings to issue this conditional use permit that staff has identified are that the use is necessary or desirable in relation to the purposes and intent of the San Juan Bautista General Plan, zoning ordinances, and the economic, social, and environmental status of the city, that the use will be properly related to other uses, transportation facilities, and other public facilities in the area and will not cause undue environmental impacts related to noise, odor, pollution, etc., and that the use will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons living or working in the vicinity or be materially detrimental to the public welfare of the city and its residents. Staff has also identified all the other elements that would have been concerned, such as parking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, hey, Sean, can you come forward for a second? Sure. So item D, and this is an obvious statement, be in full compliance with all ABC regulations E, that the tasting area, by the way, these guys may not agree with me, I'm just throwing this out. Sure. Tasting area, of course, subject to approval of ABC, be confined to the quad, what is that breezeway? Quad or breezeway area?
Yeah.
Well, he said he was going to confine it to indoors.
Well, you said you're not asking for that. I'm just trying to say that should you want to do that in the future, let's just get this taken care of.
Sure, should we want to in the future require, so I would say, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to say, but it seems like you would say that we would want to stay within the building and not utilize the courtyard.
Not utilize courtyard? I was thinking you might want to utilize.
We may, but then you would want to say that we would have to get a conditional use permit for that, right? We would have to come back.
You would just amend this one, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, however that is.
But did you say, did you say that Imjune already utilizes the outside?
They do.
Because we want this to cover both, so if they already do, then you should include this, because this isn't just for them, it's for both. So
that's what I'm saying.
I'll be quiet.
You just call it the courtyard, probably.
Stay in the courtyard and off the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You got that?
So be confined to the courtyard.
Be confined to the courtyard.
And by the way, these aren't DEF on the findings. These would be 2 and 3 under the conditions.
Thank you.
Yeah. The findings are prescribed by the municipal code, so that's
got it.
Those are
Got it. What is our current ordinance relative to music?
I think it's just after 10 p.m.
Okay. So that's already covered, so we don't even need to address that here.
I think we put it anyway on the 18th bill, just because they were actually proposing to have bands and everything.
Is it 10 o'clock or 11?
No, that's
10.
We did 10 at the 18th bill.
What about the community center?
I think they're also 10, actually.
I don't think so.
No?
Well,
I don't care, but
I think they have to be out by 11, but
I don't think they're going to have loud music, but
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just ambient, if anything, inside.
I mean, you can say no outdoor music. I mean, that might cover it. And then no music in the courtyard for now, unless they want to amend it later or something. Sure. That'd be a pretty intense place to have some music, other than like an acoustic guitar or something. Yeah.
Okay, forget that. Yeah, and all the emails and that are people that approach me from the public. Those were I think the biggest concerns. Commissioner Moore?
No, I'm fine with everything that you stated.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this would be a motion to approve making the findings cited, is that correct?
It's part of the resolution, so if you just move to, well, first of all, do the CEQA, categorical exemption for infill.
And it's resolution 22? Yes.
Okay, I look for a motion to approve Resolution 2017-22, which is a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista making a determination for a categorical exemption for a conditional use permit, CUP 2017-81, for on-site sales of alcoholic beverages at 106 3rd Street under Section 15332 of the California Environmental Quality Act. Do I have such a motion?
I'll second that.
Oh, you so moved.
That's your motion?
I'll second it.
No, I said I would look for a motion.
I shall so move.
All right, you second that? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion carries.
And then we go to 23 here.
Okay, so this is 23 then? Or is it still part of 22? It's 23.
It's 23.
Okay. So, Resolution 2017-23, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Juan Bautista approving a conditional use permit, CUP 2017-81, for on-site sale of alcoholic beverages at 106 3rd Street. And is this where we add the...
Yeah, with the additions of condition 2 and 3, number 2 being that it be in compliance with all ABC regulations, and condition 3 being that the tasting area is confined to the courtyard.
Okay.
And the...
And inside.
And the inside, obviously.
And, well, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And the interior.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
And the motion carries. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Now we're looking at a monument.
And Sean, you're all connected with Matt on all your next steps?
Yeah, we put in a business license already, and we're moving forward with all that stuff.
Okay, good.
Oh, I just had one question for that. As far as obtaining the CUP, copy of it from ABC.
As soon as we get it signed, I can get that to you.
The resolution is received.
Yeah.
So like tomorrow or something, or?
I have to get signatures.
Yeah, as soon as it's signed by one of these guys. Yeah. Within a week, we should have it to you within a week, yeah.
I'll be in Canada all this week, so if you can get it prepared this week.
Okay.
Well, if not, Darlene can sign too, right?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
You know, isn't the chairman always supposed to sign, whether he's present or not? Just not clear on that. Resolutions or the mayor.
Can you have it prepared this week, though?
Yes, I can.
All right.
I'll have it.
She might call both of us.
Okay, item C, consider a site design review permit for a monument sign located between Nyland Road, the Alameda, and State Route 156, applicant the San Juan Committee. So that's continued now?
Yeah, so after we put this on the agenda, I spoke with some of the city council members, including the mayor, who pointed out that this is on public property. This has been a confusing project because the Planning Commission several years ago approved something there, some kind of monument sign, the design concept and the location in terms of, which way it was facing, but no one seems to know what exactly was approved at that meeting, and no one knows if they ever got permission from the city. So we want to take this to the city council first to make sure that they have the approval to put this on city property to begin with, before they even come to you for the site design and for the actual monument itself.
So this is by the school?
Yeah, this is on that little strip in between Nyland Drive, Alameda, and 156, on that corner across from the windmill.
Okay.
And there have been many different iterations, some of which were like 30 feet high and 30 feet wide, and the Great Wall of San Juan. So we really also need to dial in exactly what it is. And I know that the current proposal is a much smaller, it's a much different sign than what was originally proposed. So I'm working with them to bring you guys the exact proposal for this time. But we also, like I said, first step, need to get city council approval, so.
Okay. So we don't take any action here, right?
No.
Okay. Item 6, discussion items. We discussed C. Let's discuss A. items for the next joint meeting of the City of Hollister and San Benito County Planning Commission. So that would be, is it supposed to be September or October? I don't remember.
I'm not sure, you worked that out, and I don't think I ever got that email, but...
I might have that right here. Okay, well, I think we discussed this at the last meeting, or the one that I was at, is going on there, right?
We got a few things. We got, affordable housing from Ernie, but then I haven't really gotten a...
Sewer.
Oh, yeah, and the sewer thing from Darlene, okay. So,
Yes, I mentioned
so those are the two so far.
And I had transportation, public transportation.
Okay.
You said sewer?
Tying into the county sewer.
Okay. Or the City of Hollister sewer plant?
Well, they call it the city of Hollister, but it's actually owned by the county.
Oh, okay. Did you have any items you wanted to add?
No, let's see, maybe,
Oh, affordable housing.
I got that.
Yeah. And then,
I think there might have been one or two items, so if you guys can take some liberty, I'll make sure he sends it out to you. But, the next thing I think we need to discuss is to where to hold that meeting. Now, the last one, it was all of the bodies, so the City of Hollister Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission, and 3 of us attended. So, and then I think there was probably 30 members of the public?
at least, yeah,
So we would need,
a facility for that. When is the city council going to fix the sound quality in the community center?
That's up in the air. There's a few things being floated right now because there's a proposal from the mission to possibly use the community center for a significant amount of time, and that could possibly be, that'll be discussed in the next council meeting, so.
Okay.
so
I'm not sure if it not.
I think our options with or without good sound quality would be the community center,
Or the school across the
the
street?
school, the VFW.
You mean the place where we held the water forum when you say school?
Yes, I'm talking about the convent over here.
Yeah, the mission room where we did the water forum, I think.
If they want to use our property, we can.
So I don't think anybody has a preference, right, other than it just needs to be large enough. All right, go ahead. Just say I'm good, whatever you want to. And then I assume you will prepare the agenda, keeping spirit with the way it's been done thus far. I'd like just to add that I'd like to run that meeting very informally. I don't think it needs to be as structured
As the last one?
The last one was. So, when I on your behalf agreed to hold these meetings, I envisioned it as just kind of an informal discussion. No real actions taking place, and in due respect to my friends in the city of Hollister, I think it was ran more like a formal meeting. Of course, we have to notice it, we have to call it to order, we have to report any findings and what have you, but I think it just to be informal.
Now, that being said, do you want me to have speakers? I know on the issue, say, of affordable housing, there's the, I forget the name of it, but there's a housing authority group in Santa Cruz County that has offered services over here as well, and that might be a good group to have come in and sort of give the pitch,
That's true.
So Bernie said only solutions, not griping about the problem. We all know the problem, so I was just trying to think of,
Yeah, only solutions, that's right.
So yeah, I think that on any of these topics, if there's somebody that has, informed, if they're aware of informed decisions that have been made in the past or have information about some steps or tools that we could take.
How about
someone, say, from the wastewater treatment plant over there that might be knowledgeable about the challenges and...
Yeah, or, or what I thought might be interesting, the city of Gilroy also does not own a sewer plant. It's operated by a private entity, and several cities use it. Morgan Hill, Gilroy, and some of the surrounding communities.
It might also be interesting, on the one part of that no one ever seems to think about is what we do with the current one in terms of decommissioning it. So, having someone like Bracewell come in and talk about what would be involved with decommissioning the existing plant might be also an interesting thing to consider. But then again, the other groups, in the spirit of our disinterest with some of their topics last time, they wouldn't be very interested in that. So I don't know if that's the proper venue.
Yeah, maybe not.
Well, how about an introduction to the general plan that they just finished at the county level? They just finished Anthony was just saying that they just finished the general plan for the county. I would like to know more about that. Because that, to see how we all fit into that.
All right, we'll discuss how maybe we could make that a topic that would interest all three bodies. Kind of the rules for the overshadowing purposes. Discuss what other entities are doing, which that would fall under, but then also try to look at solutions that might benefit us all. Oh, I know what my other one was. Parks and open space.
Parks, trails, and...
Yeah, open space. Okay.
And I'll get the date and time from you, and then I'll start working on location.
You and I can get together, and we communicate to them what their proposed agenda is, and if they have anything else to add.
Okay.
All right. Other discussion items. Okay, mobile food vending regulations.
Yeah, so you weren't here for this one last time. Actually, Andy wasn't here for this either because he left before we got to the discussion items.
Ernie and I were.
It was just Ernie and I were last time.
What do we
So
do?
How did that informal discussion off the record go?
We gained 2, lost 1. So the topic of mobile food vending has come up a few times related to the 18th Barrel here. I've talked to the people at Vertigo a little bit about wanting to do something with food trucks. So I just poked around the municipal code and realized that we don't have anything in there related to mobile food vending. The county health department regulates the facilities, aka the trucks and where they keep them, but we don't really have anything as to where they're allowed on city streets. Given it currently doesn't seem to be an issue because there aren't parking in front of downtown businesses or whatnot, but it wouldn't hurt to have something on the books, an ordinance related to where they are permitted and not permitted, so that local businesses such as Vertigo and 18th Barrel and others could look into the possibility of using those for some of their events. I actually talked to the city attorney about this. She, pointed out some challenges that might pop up with it, but also provided me with a very good model from, I think, the city of Auburn that I could base it on and start sort of as a discussion piece for us.
Yeah, I'll say these are usually controversial. It'll be more than one meeting to, hammer something out because they're very controversial. People that want them and then local businesses that don't. So it's very controversial.
Okay. So there's nothing now requiring them to...
No.
Well, I would assume if they were to conduct business within the city, someone, but you said they'd have to have a business license.
That is the one thing that's come up with, because on private property, we really can't, according to the ordinance, it's all for public right-of-ways and roads. On private property, I believe the only thing we can really require is the business license. And so I've talked to 18th Barrel about that because we didn't really cover that in our discussion when we did the conditional use permit. And I'm going to work with them to ensure that all the food trucks they bring in have a valid business license for Salem Batista so that we can get the sales tax off that.
Did you find any... Matt and I don't actually have secret meetings, but we discussed the agenda, and one of the things that, Pat, you might know about this, or somebody else here, there was a hot dog truck that had like a grandfathered permit for just the usage that you're talking about. Remember that?
Yeah.
Did you find anything on that, Matt?
I wasn't able to find anything, so.
Okay.
I think it's a government type military or, well, I've heard of it, where they get waived, there's some sort of waiver.
There was a food truck here, and why did I want to say Trini Martin had something to do with it? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah.
Yeah? And so anyway, I was telling Matt, I think there might be some precedent for this. But yeah, I think I haven't seen what the city attorneys brought forward to you from the city of Auburn, but I would think whatever that ordinance would look like, Matt, would be a little bit more broader than just food trucks. I assume now, if I wanted to rent a couple parking spaces for, a charity event, I could come to the city and maybe get a permit for that, or?
Encroachment permit, would it be?
I guess, yeah, for taking the right away. Yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, yeah, I think that this is gonna be a hot topic, and my recommendation would be staff commit some time to it, and I guess you could take it to the city council first, or would we?
I'd start with you, and then it would go up to city council.
Okay.
But I can put together a draft one, but based, loosely on the one she sent me, and we can start discussing it and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I think we should do that. Anybody else comments?
It's a little easier to talk about once you actually see a model and see what types of things are involved. So I just wanted to gauge whether this was a topic you were interested in pursuing. So.
Yes.
Sure.
I think we need to.
Anybody from the public have a comment on that? Okay, I think we're just about done here. Commissioners, do you have any additional comments?
No, I don't have any.
Matt, comments?
No, I don't think so.
City manager or city attorney comments?
No comments.
Look for a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the planning commission meeting.
I'll second that. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
All right, so I'll put that together. I'll run it by you.